Welcome back to day 2 of week 2 of SMITE Summers Masters, brought to us by our good friends over at Prime Gaming. If any of those games in that trailer piqued your interest, well, I've got good news for you. With a Prime membership and a Prime Gaming subscription, you can get all those games for free to yourself, plus new games every single month when the catalog updates and starts rotating more games in and out. You get free content in the games you're already playing, including games like SMITE and Paladin, some of our in-home games. So if you want some free skins in those, make sure you have all that. With a Prime membership, you also get free shipping, music, movies, and more available to you. So make the most out of your Prime membership and your Prime Gaming membership today. Thank you so much to Prime for being the sponsor of Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. And now moving into our second set of the day, I'm J-Mac. I got Trelly joining me on the desk. We got the Jade Dragons and the Oni Warriors. We got through our first set of the day. All 5 games went the full distance. It's the Camelot Kings who are the first team to move into the finals, and now they await their opponent between these next 2.
But also that means the Tartarus Titans are waiting their opponents as well.
Correct, but they're waiting for the losers.
Right, they're losers waiting for the other losers, whereas the winners are waiting for the other winners. Should be a good one up against the Oni Warriors, the Jade Dragons. Not everyone expected the Oni Warriors to get here, right? They had to take on some intense teams to make it, but we saw Qvo just a bit ago on the interview, and he looked like he was pretty excited to be here, so I'm thinking the confidence should carry them over.
Yeah, and especially with them finding a win over the number 2 seeded Oni Warriors, or not Oni Warriors, the Olympus Bolts that the Oni Warriors had to beat in order to get to this point. Probably a pretty nice little boost for those guys. You know, the Oni Warriors, they were sitting right there. They were number 3 seed coming into the final couple of weeks of play, had a couple of stumbles, dropped down to 6, and they were finally able to break their curse against the Olympus Bolts to be able to now bring themselves up here to being able to face off against the Jade Dragons in our second best-of-5 semifinals of the day. And as our weekend continues on, we still got the grand finals tomorrow, again, hosting between the winners of this set and then the Camelot Kings. Losers will move down into the lower bracket portion of it, or at least the lower match in 3rd place, and have to face off against the Tartarus Titans for that 3rd and 4th place match. Should be a lot of fun watching this game out here, especially with the new playstyle the Dragons have adapted. A lot of early game presence out of this team now with Screammmmm on the roster.
It's interesting because if we came into this tournament just like erased the Hex Mambo set, the Jade Dragons would still be like undefeated, and they're still undefeated, but not dropping a single game up until this point. And it's like, can the Oni Warriors even compete? But I'm sure the Warriors were able to watch that set and be like, okay, so the Jade Dragons can bleed. We've seen them take a fall and must be feeling much more confident going into this set currently, given the fact that Mambo were able to take that one match off, or game off them.
And even though it's only 2 sets, we'll show you guys the schedule at the least. You guys got to see the Camelot Kings find their 3-2 win over the Tartarus Titans in our very first one. And now our second and final set of today, Oni Warriors and Jade Dragons. Our top 4 teams will now be dropped down to only the top 2 by the end. Every day we're having the number of teams that are moving on and winning out at the end of the day. And that can lead us into our bracket to see the journey up thus far. Camelot Kings started their week with the 2-1 on the Leviathans, a 2-1 for the Tartarus Titans. That led to the 3-2 for the Camelot Kings to move in. Jade Dragons went 2-1 against Hex Mambo, losing their undefeated game streak, but still keeping their set streak. And the Oni Warriors, the only team to find a 2-0 yesterday, and against a team that was 4 seeds higher than them coming into this tournament.
That's what I'm talking about. A team that plays through momentum very heavily. I think the energy and just like the mindset of the team carries through to the rest of the squad. So got to be feeling confident after 2-0 the Bolts. And again, seeing Hex Mambo take a set off the Dragons proves that they can lose with Scream. You know, they haven't lost 2 games yet with Scream, but they can lose before. So I think that's got to play pretty heavily, and maybe they even learned something about the picks and bans of this squad in the situation.
Yeah, the Oni Warriors are definitely a team that plays off of each other's energy more than anything else. I mean,
right.
Every time you're looking over at the player cams, QvoFred, Dardez, especially QvoFred, always getting hyped up and making sure to keep his team very active and very aware of everything going on there. And that really starts to bleed over into that dual lane when we start talking about the players like NeilMah and Vote specifically, who's been making a lot of step-ups. Some changes up into that God pool that Poseidon has made its way in Vote's hands on numerous occasions throughout the regular season, even throughout this tournament. And I think he's definitely a player that you have to keep your eyes on, because whether he's playing the traditional physical hunters or if he's going towards these magical quote-unquote hunters like Poseidon or the more traditional magical ADCs like Freya, Vote is always a player who can come up and make some big plays.
Yeah, Vote and Dardez have been absolutely popping off as the damage dealers, the main damage dealers, I should say, of this team. It used to be like Nika would have a pop-off game, and then the rest of the team would be able to follow suit. You know, Qvo would be able to go big, but it would be to try and facilitate that solo lane. But as of recent, Vote has just been left alone in that duo lane, finding some solo kills when possible, but more so just power farming. And then he just rotates in level 20, and you're like, wait, how did I get so far behind? It doesn't matter at that point. He's just doing too much damage. So I definitely think keep your eyes on Vote in that left lane, where he can find the farm whenever possible, trying to hit level 20 before everyone else. And you can't itemize into that because you can't match that farming presence. Vote has just been so explosive, able to find all that farm in his lane in particular.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult lane opponent to go up against between his diversity that he has in his own god pool, between the flexibility of the remainder of his team as well. You never know what the Oni Warriors are going to bring out onto the battleground. You never know what kind of compositions these guys are going to want to run up against their opposition. And going against a player like PandaCat, who definitely wants to be very aggressive, Vote is a player, and I think PandaCat in that specific matchup is one that we're going to be putting a lot of focus on once we start jumping into the actual gameplay.
Yeah, whenever I watch the Jade Dragons, and whenever they're winning, it's fine. They're usually just sitting by, coasting by, they're playing their own style. But whenever they go down, that's when I look over towards that dual lane. PandaCat is not the ADC that wants to be left on an island. He wants to be looking for those 1v1s. He wants to be going deep for these potential kills. He'll go to the picks like the Ho Yi, like the On Her, for example, that have some decent team fight, of course. They're late game hunters, but wants to get aggressive, right? PandaCat is trying to fight as much as possible. He's not one to sit back and let Vote get to level 20 before any sort of skirmish. That's not the playstyle he goes for, and that's why I love watching him. He's not an ADC that's just going to sit back and waiting for late game farm.
Yeah, I mean, PandaCat in his last 6 games that he has played has been Ho Yi. And let me just read off the stat lines of each of those 3 Ho Yi games that he's had. 5-3-9, which is pretty good. 6-1-16, and how about a 7-0-2 in that second game against Hex Mambo, where he ends on a quadra kill game-ending play for his team. This is a pick that PandaCat goes but to anytime that his team needs it. Game 2 situations all the time. He's going to be jumping this one out to make sure that he can lead his team to victory. But again, it's not just the Ho Yi. Cupid is always up in there. Ullr, Heimdallr, those are all some gods that he has played within the last few times out there. PandaCat, a very diverse player in that role.
Yeah, and I just think that's what's so interesting about his playstyle. Like, no one else has those gods in the god pool. Of course, the Cupids, as you said, and the Ho Yi can always be whipped out. Zapman's played it a fair bit, but he just always is looking for the aggressive play whenever possible. It's not a style that all these ADCs can go to. They have pop-off performances for sure, but I think PandaCat just one who plays with a chip on his shoulder. I think he likes to think of himself as this ADC that can take those 1v1s. You'll find a solo kill here or there. Of course, he'll get soloed every once in a while, but has that chip on his shoulder for a reason. He wants to make sure that he's constantly looking to get aggressive, head-banded up. Right, he's going to be sweating. I think, it's game day. He's going to be sweating. He wants to make sure none of that sweat gets in his eyes, and he's ready to play.
He is ready to go, as well as the rest of the Jade Dragons. Remember, semifinal matchup. Look at that, man. He is ready to go.
Oh my goodness.
I'm a little terrified now. I don't know if I want to be against that man.
Don't make me lean against him. I'm not gonna.
No, sir. Even if I'm supporting in that lane, I'm gonna go to another lane. I'm gonna leave my ADC behind and say, sorry, bro, you got to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I just imagine, like, luckily, they can't see the player cams. Luckily the enemy team, Vote doesn't have to look at this, unless of course he's watching the broadcast. Like in that case, then I'm sorry, but you had to see that. You're probably intimidated going forward, but at the very least, PandaCat looks ready. I don't know if all of the Jade Dragons look ready, but Panda looks hyped up for this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. PandaCat, the rest of the Jade Dragons, probably not happy about having to drop one of their first games in, 5-6 sets total that they've had to play. Have only dropped a single game ever since Screammmmm has come through. He has been a massive revitalization for the Jade Dragons, has really been able to step up their early game, which is where the Jade Dragons, before these tournaments, before we came into Phase 2, that's where they were really known. That's where the Dragons were excelling. Get these first 10, 15 minutes, just jam it down the enemy team's throat, just constantly pummel them, beat them against the wall until eventually they just can't fight back anymore. Then they're good. Teams started adapting. Jade Dragons weren't able to make those adaptations, and now with Screammmmm back on the team, it really feels like we're going back to the Jade Dragons of old, Charlie.
Yeah, this is one of those, we always highlight whenever I'm casting a game with Screammmmm, and I'm like, he doesn't have 3 deaths yet. That means he's not dialed in, because usually Screammmm's consistently going in, forcing plays. Sure, he'll get the kills sometimes. He usually has the kills to match those 3 deaths, but he's always consistently going in the early, which facilitates the rest of the squad. Like fineokay, if Screammmmm has 3 deaths, usually fineokay is picking up those kills, things like that. I'm expecting to see that same sort of style come out from Screammmmm early game in this matchup.
We can see how picks and bans will go out, at least for now. Game number 1, P's and B's between the Jade Dragons and the Oni Warriors. 2 teams Only one of them can move on to the grand finals. The other team is going to have to meet the Tartarus Titans down on the third place match. And I'm very curious to see how this drafting phase will go between these teams. We've known with the Oni Warriors, picks like Dajee, Morrigan have really been at the forefront of their drafting strategy to make sure that Dardez and or Qvo can get something comfortable for themselves. And a lot of teams have been banning away some of those picks. The Jade Dragons will start by doing so. Dajee taken away alongside the Amuz and Cobb, something that Dardez has been able to pop off on recent.
Yeah, letting Qvo have Dajee is definitely not something I foresaw in this set. Now we get to see the AMC come through, not wanting to deal with Dardez on that mid pressure. It just comes in so difficult to deal with this AMC. It's been extremely versatile in that first set we just watched, and now this one as well, making sure to take that away. The Discordia and the Cabrakan, I think, smart from the Oni Warriors. Just two picks that are at the top of the meta, and putting Discordia into Pegon's hands in particular, something that's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, the Oni Warriors have answered to the quote-unquote Jade Dragons combo, which was the Discordia plus King Arthur equals fineokay just gets to farm for 25 minutes on everybody, and then Pegon comes in and takes the top damage at the end. But along with Dajee and Amuz and Cobb, Morrigan, and then Cabrakan all join the fray of the first 6 bans. It's a snap lock Eset for the Jade Dragons. And an immediate response for the Warriors is going to be Lancelot and Nemesis.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Eset didn't get grabbed immediately. Such a high ban rate. I kind of forget what Eset even does anymore because she never gets played. We know.
Hold on, I'll pull up the wiki for you.
Yeah, I think she's got some pretty good objective confirm. Her CC's pretty annoying, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I think that sounds about right.
All right, but the Oni Warriors grab a pretty solid top 2 in their own right. The Lancelot and the Nemesis. With those two grabbed, I think the Lancelot more than likely going over towards Nika in that solo lane, which means Qvo gets to pilot the Nemesis. A lot of dive, a lot of prot shred there between the two, and I think the damage in the early is definitely something to consider. But Jade Dragons are going to grab Scream the Pele, not have too much worry in the world. Having the knock-up for the Nem shield, something that ends up getting its value when you're looking for those 1v1 skirmishes in the jungle. Now the Jade Dragons have their option. Do they grab a pick for Pegon? No. They're just going to grab that Ymir. It gets some good value into that Lancelot. There's no way you can use that jousting field when there's a wall in your face.
I mean, what a world that we have moved into now, Charlie, where we went from Yemoja for 6 weeks straight being the #1 pick ban guardian. Khepri was also kind of in that top 3 category as far as just gods in general. Even Xingqian joining that mix. And now we are through the first half of the pick phase, and neither Yemoja, Khepri, or Xingqian have been looked at by either of these teams. Instead, it's a Ymir first pick out of the Jade Dragons for a support god at the least, and then a Poseidon for the Oni Warriors. Flexibility between Vote and Dardez on that one, but if history's any indication, likely going over towards Vote. And as we jump into the bans, Ratatoskr, the first one taken away, something that fineokay has been playing a little bit more recently.
Yeah, fineokay is not going to get to play the King Arthur or the Ratatoskr in that solo lane. I am going to hold on to the ambiguity of the Poseidon. More often than not, it does go into Vote's hands, but with AMC taken away, if more hunters come through, I don't imagine that they're going to throw Dardez on just anything in that mid lane. Looks like the Jade Dragons will take away the Yemoja, so we don't have to see that get through, and if that's the case, Khepri would make a fair bit of sense. fineokay has been able to go towards that Achilles whenever Khepri does get through, so maybe that's something that the Oni Warriors just aren't putting any sort of priority towards, not wanting to grab that Khepri. And I think the Jade Dragons knew that as well. They're going to ban away the Xingqian, trying to bait Neil into that Khepri pick. Do you value that safety so much that you let fineokay go towards his Achilles? We'll have to see if that's what the Oni Warriors do, and they're not going to take that bait. They're just going to grab the Fafnir instead.
This might be one of the first games in a while that we have seen Khepri just completely left alone. But I think you're right to mention that a potential bait of it with that Ymir is such a great matchup into it. So Fafnir for the Oni Warriors for their 4th pick. Still one left open. Whether that going to be Dardez's pick or whether that be Vote's pick is still up in the air for the Oni Warriors. But over for the Jade Dragons, hovering this tier. We got to talk about just the prevalence of tier at the very least. In Deathwalker's hands and Hex Mambo, really good pick. Like, really good if Deathwalker is piloting. Everybody else who has picked up this god besides Deathwalker so far this event, not so good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a bait. I think the tier has one good matchup, and it's the Nemesis. Everyone else doesn't really have too much of a problem with tier. I mean, Poseidon just drops the Whirlpool and says there's no crit. Like, you simply cannot. There's no Fearless coming through. Like, I do not care about this pick. And that's just never something that you want to see. So the hover was immediately switched into fineokay's own coined Budget King Arthur. When King Arthur's gone, Budget King Arthur comes through in spades. Like a Chulainn will be the choice, as PandaCat is hovering that Artemis. Great matchup into the Fafnir in particular. Anytime the Draconic transformation comes through, Neil's going to find himself in a trap. Like you will be crippled. You cannot leap away. The aggression from the Jade Dragons is certainly going to be there. They also have this Eset for the objective confirmation. Pegon going to be piloting that one. It's going to be extremely difficult to try and deal with. And it looks like the Oni Warriors are hovering that on her, trying to get aggressive in this lane. This is a pick that PandaCat likes to go to, as I said previously, but maybe something that Dardez is going to play in the mid lane, or Vote will just take and give Dardez over this Poseidon. I already said once the Poseidon was locked in, we've seen both of them play it, right? Vote and Dardez have both piloted this Poseidon in the past. It really just depends on if you get a good hunter in that mid lane, which is something that Dardez might want to go to. Chernobog is the change. You're going for more late game oriented damage over that early. I'm just going to stop analyzing every little hover until they lock in.
But we can also, now that Chernobog is locked in, we can talk about him at least in a moment. But Cupid ignored entirely. That's something that's been top of the meta for such a long time now. Teams were even going so much as to first pick, first ban him between that and the Lancelot, at least in our last set. So Cupid ignored this set. Khepri ignored this set. So maybe new little trends and sweeps in the meta. But talking about the Oni Warriors draft here, Lancelot to the solo lane, at least for Nika, something to box up against this Chulainn. And as you already talked about, the Artemis and the Fafnir matchup. For this Chernobog, you think this one is going to be going over to mid for Dardez?
Yeah, I imagine probably going to Dardez. When I saw the on-her hover, that for me cemented it as they're grabbing a pick for Dardez here, because he's just nuts on the on-her. Like, he likes playing on-her in mid lane. He can find that pressure. And Eset, sure, she's got Circle of Protection, but once the Desert Fury comes out, it's Circle of No Protection. You're not living through that at level 9. It just does too much damage. So I think that's going to be for Dardez. A little bit less early pressure on the Chernobog in particular, but you can use that global presence to influence the map. How many times have I had to tell why exactly a Chernobog's getting picked? It's just been around the meta for such a long time, and it's not going to stop now.
Yeah, we're looking now maybe at the team fight stage of this game. You have an Eset. We already talked about her presence around objectives. You have an Artemis there to get some of that shred through. But as far as the actual team fighting itself goes through, do you kind of put your favorite towards one of these two teams' compositions a little bit more, Trelly?
I just think the Jade Dragons are going to try to play through that early pressure that Scream brings with the Pele, and then go for objective confirmation with the Eset, right? That seems to be the call here. You can let Pegon control the objective. You can let PandaCat get to late game on the Artemis. You shouldn't worry about duo lane too much. You do have a Kraken to worry about, though. It's not like it's going to out-damage Circle Protection, but it could be a toss-up if Circle Protection's not propped pristinely. There is a little bit of kill potential there. I think the Oni Warriors have enough early pressure to stop what the Jade Dragons are trying to do. I put a lot of pressure here on Mike in particular, though. These walls could affect a lot of the members of the Oni Warriors, and if these walls are on point, if you're getting picks before these objective fights, then it's not even a fight at that point. The Oni Warriors just have to retreat.
So if PBN can find some good walls, maybe block off a couple of these corridors of the Oni Warriors, could be devastating as far as these team fights go. Maybe even find some in lane to be able to slow the Oni Warriors down a little bit. But some good pressure, at least in a few of the lanes there. Fafnir Chernobog does at least have some good kill pressure up against the Jade Dragons. But same thing for Ymir and Artemis. We'll see which of these two teams comes on top for game number 1. It's another best-of-5 semifinals. Jade Dragons, Oni Warriors, starting now.
Oh, that was so good. I kept it going. I didn't stop.
Oh, we got to cast at some point, Gordon.
I was waiting for you. You were tapping. I was waiting for you to
Oh, yeah.
rap.
I didn't do the.
You gotta.
That's right. You're a musical guy. I'm not. Anyway, it's Dave, Gore, and Doug for the Jade Dragons Oni Warriors second semifinal of the day, and it's a best-of-5. Now, I do want to give a quick shout-out.
Speaking of 5 streamers.
That's right, 5 streamers, all of them
go.
on the Jade Dragons. If anyone is interested in watching a player POV, I believe all 5 of the Jade Dragons are streaming on their personal channels with another 5, Gore.
Yeah.
A 5-minute delay. So maybe the proper tech is to watch
And
them.
no comms. I'm going to throw that out there just
Yeah,
now.
no comms.
There's no comms either. They might not have any audio, but I think there's in-game sound.
Yeah, I haven't gone to watch. I imagine you're literally just watching the screen with not much else. But
Yes.
when they're as good at the
Maybe some
SMITE as
player
the Jade Dragons are, could be pretty cool. Maybe the proper tech is watching this, and then if something really cool happens, you then jump to their POV and catch it. Anyway, deserves a shout out. Jade Dragons, they're all streaming on their personal channels if you want to watch a specific role, specific players. Make sure to go give them some love and support. A benefit of playing at home for player and staff safety, of course, for the rest of this event. But what a semifinal we've got set up here, Gore. Jade Dragons, who have not lost much of anything recently since adding Scream. They lose one individual game to Xbalanque. Should come into this match with some confidence.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch what they have to offer. Look, this is a team that has been doing incredible stuff. I think that Xbalanque showcased that they are beatable, right? Something that I think we all needed to be reminded, right? Like honeymoon phase, that was the phrase and discussion getting thrown out for the Dragons. Oh, they just picked up Scream. Of course they're going to be great. We'll see if that can continue.
Hello,
Yeah.
2v2. Over in solo, QvoFred doesn't have the dash anymore. And maybe needed one more charge of it. So fineokay and Scream handedly lose 2v2 over in the solo lane. Wonder if that opens up some pressure for the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch this one where Scream's pressure is going to go, and admittedly on top of that, where that means for Qvo and what that means. I know I saw a lot of people in chat prior to this. I think we even talked about it at the top of the day. A lot of people are expecting this to be a 3-0 for the Dragons. They think that the Dragons are incredibly powerful. And granted, the Dragons also have like the biggest fan base, so of course there's like, in some of that there's going to be some bias. Some of that's going to be honest opinions. We'll figure out, I guess, by the end of this which one there is. And I think if we get the Warriors from like 3 weeks ago, yeah, that's just going to be the case. Because the Warriors from 3 weeks ago are just more solid. But the Warriors that are doing this, that are getting low health bars, I mean, yellow health bars for fineokay and Scream on right. You know, Dardez here controlling the lane versus Pegon. I think that this is a Warriors that can set themselves up for success as long as they can keep that pressure, or ideally for them, start converting it into something a little bit more. Not just knocking Pegon under the tower or fineokay under the tower, but getting more farm, converting that farm in lane into farm in the neutral camps and mid camps, and then eventually Pyromancers and Gold Furies.
Ooh, that's potentially a needed stun from Pegon there. Of course, can backpedal away from Dardez. But just to keep the threat of death at bay a bit longer, Pegon hits a Spirit Ball. And you know, I think this Chernobog mid is an interesting discussion point for the Oni Warriors, because this is a style of composition they've played in the past, with vote on Poseidon, but over in the duo lane.
Yeah.
And you normally think, well, don't you want your Chernobog where the global ultimates will have the most value, right? You can't suddenly drag PandaCat all the way to the other side of the map. And I'll hold that thought as Scream has blinked forward. Dardez has his eyes gotten too big towards Pegon. No, the dash away just enough, and the wall just a bit late from PolarBearMike. But beads now off of both mid laners.
And honestly, I think important for them to be able to reclaim some control of the mid lane. If they can go for the red buff, no, it's going to be too late for that. That would have been massive for them to try and swing it. I think that now you find yourself in a very like kind of net neutral state, right? That gains back some ground Pegon had lost. Probably still going to be bouncing things a little more towards Dardez for a little bit till Circle of Protection's available, and maybe until Scream spends more time over here. But the big thing, I think, between these, and kind of maybe touching on your point, and it's one thing that Vote has been playing Poseidon incredibly well. And so I think that it's like almost necessary. Like, I want him to play it. Yeah. Dardez is also one of the best Hunter players in the league, period. I don't care that he's in mid. He's got phenomenal mages under his belt as well. But, like, go back in a lot of, like, really historic sets for Dardez, and you're going to see, historically, lots of on her. You're going to see a lot of carries, and you're going to see these Hunters where he performs exceedingly well on them to the point where it's just, I mean, he could probably switch to the role over in duo and give some people the hands. I mean, like, I think he's got a lot of it. I think, like, without a doubt, a lot of players for a long time regard him, might still regard him as the best on her in the league. Things like that I think are just going to be troublesome. So for Pegon, you know, you're playing a mage. Yeah, you're going to have clear eventually, but with a build like this, especially with the start that you had, you're probably just vibing, trying to stay alive and hoping for the best, whereas Dardez is going to be able to find some control. Eventually, you're going to be able to outclear them, but it's the fun balancing point, I think, that Dardez is going to be able to provide for a late game versus what Pegon's providing on this Hunter versus a mage.
And Gore, I do think I want to return to the kind of global presence conversation between putting the Chernobog over on left versus having it in mid. And I think it's kind of give and take either way, where if you put Dardez all the way over on the left side of the map, or put the Chernobog on the left side of the map, you ult globally, and yes, PandaCat can't rotate into that. But if you come up empty-handed, you've got a whole map to traverse back across to get some farm to get back on your side of things. So where Pegon can rotate quicker out of mid. Dardez is also missing out on a lot less if the ultimate doesn't work out. The first fight of the game over Greater Scorpion, and it's PolarBearMike who's maybe caught out, but a triple knockup from fineokay.
Oh my god.
Tilts the scales back, and how about that for a circle of protection? Mike caught out by one last auto from Dardez. Keeps things even here. A spear ball hoping to hit home. Doesn't matter because Scream has got the gap closed. Jade Dragons notch a couple with one answer from the Onis.
And look, that's I mean, multitudes of play there, but Mike's wall specifically, you know, the ult starts things out. We'll give shout-outs. Warriors confirmed the Greater Scorpion for themselves. Yep. But it comes at a heavy cost, right? You know, Mike gets a massive ult, immediately slowed because of the Frostbite passive. So you've got control over the Warriors at the onset. Then a good wall in a kind of awkward position for him, but still somewhere he's able to get a little more damage out there. Almost able to squeak out as well, while the rest of the damage comes through. Pegon, like you said, good circle of protection. A really beautiful knock-up from fineokay. All of it kind of showcasing, I think, the Dragons' team fight potential and what I expect to see a lot of throughout this game from them. And then you get the nice retreat, I'll call it, from the Warriors. Unfortunately, you know, Scream had blink, so he's going to find somebody. It was just which direction does he blink. They kind of fanned away. If he goes to the left, he's going to pick up, I believe it was Dardez that went that way, straight. No, sorry, straight was Dardez. To the right was Qvo. No matter where, it feels like there's a Warrior waiting for him to be able to scoop away. And, you know, you see something like that, you lose the Greater Scorpion. There's not a whole lot to pick up afterward, admittedly, and since it was an invade, the Greater Scorpion, you're not necessarily losing out on that for the Dragons. But I think it's a good call just to kind of showcase and maybe, again, heat check what the Warriors are going to be providing this early on.
fineokay had a really good initiation in that fight as well. I think the Chulainn already hit a bit of its mark here in the early game. Anything that's going to keep Nika a bit slowed down on this Lancelot solo, it's going to feel good for Fino. Nika's gotten Soul Eater, gotten that fully stacked up, so you get all the value from that item now. It's a sustain in lane. Going to feel very nice for Nika. And then, of course, into a bit more bruisery, potentially a bit more tanky later on. And so maybe over the next few minutes when you'd like to see Nika potentially rotate out and make some things happen for the Oni Warriors on the right side over towards the mid lane of the map. Good pacing, though, early on from Scream. If you look at the flip side, 101, killing an assist and getting the Crusher. Maybe wanting to scrap early. Look at that blink, 5 seconds away from being back up. And we know Scream loves to keep that gas pedal pushed down. We know Scream loves to continue to look for pressure across the map.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if, honestly, positioning-wise, he's looking for a gank right now. Right? Like, he's on the prowl in the jungle. Doesn't seem like they're going to be able to get anything unless they want to go deep for this. I mean, a good wall from Mike isolates people in the jungle. That's one of the great strengths of the Ymir. With the grouping from the Warriors, though, it might be maybe an over-investment from the Dragons if they do want to try and fight this.
Yeah, it's always where you have to be careful as a Ymir. Yes, I can trap you in with my team, but if I'm the one overextending on the Ymir, it is very hard outside of a miracle wall for me to suddenly separate myself from your team. Mike, realizing he's got some support, doesn't have a problem journeying into the Oni Warriors side of the jungle at all, but nothing ends up coming of it. And both junglers will back away. So different mindset from QvoFred, maybe similar hopes, but of course different early itemization with the Golden Blade early on the Nem. And looks like Erendite, something like that for both of these junglers. And you look later in the game, Gore, Prot Shred, things like that. As immobile as Ymir can be, super, super tanky. So that Divine Judgment is going to be very important from QvoFred to help the Oni Warriors burst down some of these tankier targets.
Yeah, being able to burn through the Chulainn, being able to burn through Mike specifically, Ymir has like the best Guardian scaling in the game. Yeah. So tankiest tank that can exist if he gets to the front line, gets that itemization online. So I'm going to keep my eyes on Mike and, like you said, on Qvo and countering that. I'm also keeping my eyes, Dardez, I was going to talk about the difference between like a Warlock staff when you buy it versus stacked versus a Transcendence when you buy it and versus stacked. And he farmed that so quickly. I mean, he got 50 stacks, and they bought it around the same time that Pegon got their Warlock staff. And it's half the stacks between the two of them. I mean, it was very impressive, I think, from Dardez to farm as well as they just did to be able to pick those up. And, you know, part of that probably, I can't remember, I think he got it right after the kill. And so it wasn't even, like, facilitated by anything else. It was just minion farming, jungle farming, things like that. But it does feel now that you've got an either equal ground or maybe even heavier step with a little bit of gold over Pegon. the Warlock staff, I think, really good at base stats. Does get better when the evolved version of it, but I think base Warlock staff versus base Transcendence advantage Pegon.
Yep.
Now stack Transcendence versus base Warlock staff advantage their others.
Well, when you got a Fafnir on your team, you want to shred down objectives. Transformation from NeilMah and Burn from the Oni Warriors gives the first Pyromancer of the game to the Onis. Right on time. Needed some gold stabilization. The Jade Dragons, that first blood bounty, had built up about 1,000 or so gold lead. Wouldn't you guess it, Gore? We are right back to even here at the 10-minute mark. So that first Gold Fury always tends to be the first area where you look. And in our first set of the day, it felt like by the time we were getting there was a team who was feeling pretty comfortable with the game state at that point. Dragons and the Oni Warriors pretty neck and neck. Now, Pegon's got a pretty fun build going. You mentioned the Warlock staff. Right into the staff of Mirrodin. I suppose it makes some sense. If you start off these team fights with that circle protection, get some big burst damage on the other end of it.
Yeah.
Could be a great look for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, like he said, a really good way, and even around the Gold Furies, things like that. Like if you're talking about the Fafnir capabilities and potentially, I will say Kraken capabilities of the Warriors, Circle of Protection does that and gives you a nice area of effect for your team to fight in.
What does Pegon get done here? Just some follow-up on his team. The Jade Dragons have separated out the Oni Warriors, but keep your eyes on both. The Kraken from the other side of the Gold Fury pit could make the difference. It's a confirmed battle, and the Jade Dragons win it. Gold Fury to the Drags, but how about the fight after? Dardez ults in, but it's a great stun on the backline from Screammmmm, who's melting down damage as Dardez has been able to stay alive. fineokay remedies that. And a messy fight from both squad gives the Oni Warriors a 2-for-1 kill lead, but the chase down and the slow is there for Screammmmm. A double kill for Nika. You get the Gold Fury, but you lose 3 if you're the Dragons.
Yeah, so, I mean, looking at the chart, you come out halfway ahead, right? Like, you do get some gold back in your favor. It is not anywhere near what you needed it to be, I think, to make up for the amount of kills that go the other way. And there's a moment there, and, of course, we have the glory of being able to see top-down everybody through the walls, things like that, where if you were able to turn just slightly as Screammmmm, you probably get Vote on top of that. You're able to get a second kill, and it feels a little more confirmed and at least a little better for your team. A lot of relics get burned throughout that, but I think that just goes to show the focus versus the objective versus the actual fight. And also a really good polarization for the Warriors. Yesterday, Game 1 versus the Bolts, they refused to fight. Like they would see a team fight, they would walk up to it, and then they go, nah, we don't need this, and then just disappear. And they got a massive gold lead. They controlled the game outside of that as well. It was very impressive for them. But this time around, being able to see them get in there, and yeah, maybe you're not going to get the objective, but if you're going to be scrappy enough that it comes out as like a 300 gold difference, then it's going to be worthwhile for you. And the problem is like that's going to be harder to confirm. There's a Kraken on the other side. There's a lot of burn on the other side. Like the Warriors, even at an even game state, I think can burn and confirm quicker than the Dragons can with the maybe the same kind of potential, because their burn's a little slower on the left-hand side. They've got a lot of good damage in there, but it's going to come out more in bursts. And so far, Mike has been in a little bit of half-and-half space, right? I think that we've had some really good walls and some not quite connecting freezes, like really going right down the middle, split 50-50 for whether or not the engage is going to work. Later on, though, in this game, you make a missed engage like any of the ones that we've seen in the last couple of minutes, and it won't matter as much, right? You'll be super tanky, you'll be able to maintain it, and ideally your cooldowns are going to be in just the right circumstances that, hey, I missed a freeze, but my wall lasts forever, I'll throw it at my feet, they can't chase, whatever. So I think watching Mike maybe kind of grow into this Ymir a little bit more is going to be good for the rest of the game.
We need a Nara's wall bounce on Ymir.
Where you
drop it at your feet
and
you just launch yourself way up in the air. Good Paladin's throwback for you there. Yeah, look, there was actually a wall in that Gold Fury fight that I thought separated Dardez out pretty nicely.
Yeah.
But it also separated out a lot of the peel and where the Jade Dragons needed it. So a great fight back, needless to say, from the Oni Warriors. Big winner, though, feels like Nika there. He got a double kill on his rotation in, finished off some of his important early itemization. Glad Shield, Oni Hunter's Garb as well.
Yeah.
Which we saw Sot itemize into, I believe, in our first set of the day a little bit. Maybe it was Variety. One of the solo laners, at any rate, really liked this item earlier on. That damage mitigation always going to feel nice with the magical protections as well. So Nika, I think, in a really, really good spot. He's right here, ready to fight, as Mike has already thrown out the freeze and an ultimate down from QvoFred. That's on to Screammmmm. Looks like the disengage is right there on the other side. Neither team really liking their odds in this scrap.
I mean, I like the way that they engage that, though, right? The Dragons, if they find anyone that's not Neil and they get that amount of lockdown, they just get the kill. And that swerves very easily into a Pyromancer. That's what this is going to be about right now. It's not just blue buffs, Greater Scorpions, Pyromancer's up on this side of the map here in a few seconds. So any kind of pressure you can have over here, whether it's kill or just lane pressure, is going to be able to maybe lean more into that side of the map. The Dragons look like they're going to try to start it or at least position for it. But this is where things get awkward again. That your burn potential is lesser. And do you really want to drop the Circle of Protection on it right now? Like, you've got the timing for it. I don't think there'd be a Gold Fury in the next, 90 seconds afterward. But you do have to be careful with it.
Mike, good opportunity. That was a necessary hammer from Neil. I think Mike was on the verge of throwing up the wall and would have been really, really awkward for Dardez. So a nice small moment there from NeilMah that potentially makes a pretty big difference. Pyromancers respawn. The pacing of this game, that might be the next place the Oni Warriors choose to look. Mike does stonewall Nika, but
it means nothing.
Yeah, no immediate jump
beautiful.
in from the Jade Dragons. A nice no-looker. That does give positional advantage to the Jade Dragons here. Body language of the Oni Warrior says, I want to fight for it, but doesn't matter because the Jade Dragons get the Pyromancer. And ult through from Nika, freezed out by Mike. And that'll be a clean Pyro to the Jade Dragons split, one apiece.
I like the way that things are going for him, though, right? If you're the Dragons here, that one much more handily in your favor. Not really changing, I think, game state too terribly much. Maybe actually opens things up for the other side. Good news is, again, Dragons didn't use Circle of Protection. Kraken actually used on Mike.
Decent chunk damage. Would have loved the Divine Judgment before the Kraken. But doesn't matter because it's already hit. PolarBearMike still not dead, but look at Nika in the backline. PandaCat and Mike don't stand much of a chance, but Scream's got a similar mindset. He's found the backline himself. Almost two entirely different fights happening. And Nika will chase down a killing spree for the Lancelot. This one's a 2 for 2. Both supports down and a carry aside.
I think fineokay can get a little more done. I don't know. Scream doesn't have a lot of mana to work with. It's a very thin line between continuing the fight and losing your life. Scream, they're pulling him under the tower. They almost have the damage. It's not going to be enough. I like the way the Dragons play that rotation. Maybe not as clean as they would have liked, and a ton of relic usage that goes on between all of that. I think that you approach this in a good spot. Mike starts that incredibly low because of the Kraken coming out immediately from Vote. And like you said, it becomes two separate fights. It becomes the chase down of can we kill Mike, and then it's the other three is Mike and Panda on one side, and then fineokay, Scream, and Pegon fighting more around the Fury. In a similar fashion, and you had highlighted this earlier with the Staff of Mirrodin, once that Kraken was down, Pegon had no qualms about throwing out Circle Protection, seeing what damage you could get, maybe a little bit of healing, but not really focused, I think, fully on okay, let's fight over an objective. They knew it was just going to be a fight. And luckily, they only go 2 for 2. Pegon falling in that, though, does kind of showcase one of the big weaknesses. Once your beads are down, once your Aegis is down, once your ult is down, Wingus can only move you so fast so far, and it's not going to get you away from everything. So a little bit of susceptible nature in the mid lane that might be something the Warriors can lean on in the future.
I think a thread that I'm going to follow throughout the rest of this game, Gore, is how often Mike can really block off Nika from a lot of these engagements.
Yeah.
So Lancelot has continued to tilt these fights back for the Oni Warriors. What might look like a great start for the Dragons ends up tilting back for the Warriors just because Nika has been able to get involved so easily. And now a Spirit Robe for the Lancelot as well. It's going to be so hard to kill off Nika out of the solo lane. But this is the style of game the Oni Warriors have played in the past, where you deal damage all front loaded by Nika, and then on the back end of it, Dardez and Vote can fill in a lot of that space. fineokay having a great game, though, as well, and they'll call in a 2-0-3, the one-level lead, and a Spirit Robe for himself. Big itemization differences, though. Sovereignty to start off for fineokay into a Bulwark of Hope a bit later on. So when that health bar gets low, fineokay will have some shielding of his own, just like Nika will when mounted. So the solo lane battle, Gore, I think, ready to ignite here at any moment. Blink from fineokay, maybe the big difference maker.
Honestly, because a blink just knock up from Chulainn is such a great initiation for a fight. And I think Nika has a fantastic initiation, right? Because you can just start a jousting field in the middle of the map, and it becomes such a massive area of effect and change. But being able to kind of make that big play at a moment's notice for fineokay without it being easily predicted versus what Nika's does, is maybe something that can give him a leg up. We saw it in the last fight where just the aggression that a Chulainn can bring towards everything. I think that while, you know, fineokay described it as like a budget King Arthur, admittedly it's just because what are you getting? You're getting a bully who's going to be able to do a lot of damage and maintain their own life for a good amount of time, good CC, even though it's not a lot of it to maybe try and lock people down. I expect to see a lot of his positioning be, you know, centered around let's get to Dardez, let's get to Qvo, let's get to Vote. Let's make him feel uncomfortable in the backline and see how deep this dive can go, creating opportunities for Screammmmm really more than anybody, just to make sure that those kills can not only happen, but be pretty easily get in, get out for the jungler here on the Pele, just to keep him a little safer.
Well, Gore, for one of the first times today, we had a 5-game set between the Kings and the Titans. We're approaching 20+ minute mark, dead even as far as the game in its entirety goes. Both teams should feel comfortable fighting into one another at this point. And if the Jade Dragons feeling a bit better about their chances to secure this Oni Fury, PandaCat down to half HP though. Of course, you have a circle of protection to confirm and to heal, and it works out. Jade Dragons get the Oni Fury, and a bit slow on the draw are the Oni Warriors. Doesn't end up being a fight on the flip side. And little moments like that could make a big difference in the gold department, 700 or so. But nice little experience lead for the Oni Warriors. Level lead here, level lead there, and then 2 in the mid lane for Dardez.
And this is going to sound like such a small thing. First off, that's a beautiful wall just to block some autos from Mike. But it's going to sound like a small play. No, fineokay's going in. They want to fight this.
Hey, Blink Cullen, we already talked about it. And fineokay with a near-perfect initiation, but where are the carries of the Jade Dragons? Kraken drops through from Vote, and Screammmmm never had a chance to fight. It's the Kraken from Vote. That's the big differentiator. And finally a kill drops as Mike dies as well. 0-4 on this Ymir. Has kept level parity up to this point, Gore. That's a fight I think the Jade Dragons would like back.
Now, I will admit, I'd have to rewind to look at the positioning of everybody else. I saw fineokay and Mike under Tier 1. I don't know why they chose that fight. I think if you win that one, then Pyromancer is on the horizon for you, right? You're able to get something small but still in your favor. But the cost of losing it could be much bigger than that. Pegon's still alive, so maybe it's not going to be a fire giant. But the Warriors have a 5v3 advantage.
Whoa, that's big.
It feels like a weird initiation for such a weird fight.
Circle protection is up. Kraken is not, but is Pegon even going to be able to get into range? Fire giant low as the Oni Warriors have started the objective. Fire giant taken by the Jade Dragons. It's the rescue run. Oni Warriors starting it up in the face of the Dragons, and it is stolen away by Circle of Protection as Pegon had it up and ready. And what's worse, fineokay's got a double kill. Not only do you lose the FG, but you are at least going to lose 3 members of your team, and fineokay should get out alive and fine, and a big play from the Jade Dragons' new mid laner.
I'm changing my mind. That was all calculated from the get-go. They knew if they go in mid, they lose their 2 front lines, lull the Warriors into a false sense of security. They'll think, we can pull a fire giant. What are they going to do? And then Pegon just walks up and is an Eset in the map. I mean, that's just such a clean play for them. And getting the kills afterward, fineokay diving deep. I mean, the blink of an eye, just a second ago, the Dragons were trying to defend their Tier 1 after losing a Fury and a fight by the Fury. And now, all of a sudden, you're in a much more comfortable position. I mean, you're going to see gold swing so heavily in their favor. And that's the moment. You had mentioned Kraken not being up, but I also had to give a shout-out to Pegon. This is going to seem so small, but knowing the health threshold and the amount of damage that your ult will do as an Eset, and when you can pop it to kill a fire giant, that's such a massive deal. And that one, I'll admit, that was probably just, I'm going to throw it out there, I'm a spear ball, and then I'm going to pop it. Like, we got to get this thing. Yep. But I think in the past, from what we've seen in this game, it's been a lot of really good control. I think that this Eset, in the moments where it's needed to, has been able to shine bright. And it might be 1-1-4, it's not finding kills, but it's definitely been helping out the team.
The rookie mid laner steps up in a big way. Game 1 of SMITE Summer Masters semifinals. And the Oni Warriors had what felt like the game under control. And now it's anything but. I mean, 7,000 in both golden experience. And a couple towers still remaining on the map for you to take. So the Oni Warriors, again, they never shied away from fighting against the Olympus Bolts. At a certain point in the game. They did earlier on, lots of backing off.
Yeah.
But maybe you should still feel confident. You've hit level 20. Itemization-wise, you haven't fallen super far behind. I mean, you look across the screen. Tier 1, Tier 2 here or there, maybe. Gotta still give yourself a chance underneath your Phoenixes here. Vote didn't have his Kraken for the Fire Giant Gore. I think Vote would like to get a big Kraken here to repel this Phoenix Siege.
I mean, that's part of what's found them the success in these team fights, whether it was a big Kraken that hits a couple people or just burning down Mike's health bar super early on. It's really been an enabler for this team. And so Vote, I mean, kind of in this weird spot right behind the Phoenix, not necessarily the easiest place to find a Kraken from, but it gives them that leeway to go to the left or right side of the fight, throw out a Kraken where it's going to be defensible. And that's always the glory. You know, we talk about defenses, you got to talk about mages, big wide abilities on the Whirlpool, big burst capabilities with the Kraken. You've got a minute to play with if you're the Dragons, but one misstep under this Phoenix, and maybe it doesn't kill Mike. Maybe it doesn't even kill fineokay. But for Pegon, Panda, or Scream, they're just gone.
fineokay wants the blink initiation. He'll get it, but he's going to eat a Kraken in exchange. The Oni Warriors melt down the Chulainn. And I'll say it again, that's the risk you run. You blink in, you better be sure your team's got the follow-up. And the Oni Warriors shut down Fino.
And what a first death of the game for him, too, right? I mean, you've been doing so well, so much. And even there, the CC is solid, but it's just too difficult to get away from the size of the map.
Uh-oh, now Nika might be falling prey to exactly what just happened to fineokay. QvoFred has got to dash out as well. These whirlpools from Vote are making such a difference in these fights. Nika so low on health, but so are the rest of the Jade Dragons. Are they baiting themselves in? Are the Oni Warriors extending too far forward? Yes, they are. But now Dardez has ulted back out of Fountain. He gets down for Pegon. Spirit Ball is in, but Nika's got the damage for Pegon, and the Jade Dragons do ultimately get the left side Phoenix. Fire Giant buff falls off.
Look, I think Wall should come out here from Mike. It's not going to block enough. They're going to be able to chase into this.
Yeah, but look at PandaCat. He's done so much damage. Back to the Oni Warriors. It's a game of margins, razor-thin margins.
So weak. Look at fineokay.
When fineokay is teleported back into this fight, Oni Warriors got to escape. And Salmon Leap just does some damage. That is one volley of abilities either way. And you're looking at a totally different game state. Ultimately, it is the left side Phoenix down, and the Jade Dragons not worried about much else.
And both Dardez and Panda have that Odysseus's, but like it's like if I hit an auto, your team might die. It changes in the blink of an eye.
Yep.
I mean, look at how much healing he's been able to do just on the walk back to this point. I mean, PandaCat. I'm talking. I was going to say talking to Edge.
How does he heal the one?
That's always the fun when you see that. I've seen this. Okay, so I saw someone mention this on the SMITE Pro subreddit.
Oh, that's perfect.
You get one healing, and it's something. It's like with Chulainn passive and picking up a chalice nearby or something like that. Like the way they interact. So it's something like that healing was probably done to fineokay, and Scream happened to pick up a very map-centric small heal.
That one user on Reddit is feeling so seen.
I wish I knew their name, because that was like, I read that and I was like, I never would have been able to come up with that in a million years on my own.
If you're out there listening, we appreciate your contribution to the SMITE Pro
and to my knowledge base personally.
And as vast as your knowledge base already is, there's always more to learn, and that's a fun little fact.
It's so much.
Now, Gore, we approach this next Fire Giant. Map state not great for the Oni Warriors because of that left side Phoenix being down. But this is why you have a Chernobog on your team, the ability to ult into these fights. You also have teleport for Nika, or you would if it were off of cooldown. Still on cooldown for the next couple of minutes or so. So not as dire as it could be if you didn't have the Chernobog, didn't have that global presence. But all of the positional battles you'd think should be favoring the Jade Dragons right now. Might have to be a steal going the other way for the Oni Warriors to stay in game one.
This is a wild call, by the way. So both of these teams, look, Kraken's up circle protection, but the Dragons are just burning.
Dragons are burning it, and Dragons will secure the Fire Giant into the back line. Goes Nika, and Dardez is ulted from left. Pegon gets Nika. fineokay gets Dardez, and here come the Jade Dragons. But QvoFred's got something to say about it. But his words have run dry. The Jade Dragons get Fire Giant. Deicide onto the Oni Warriors. In what should be, and maybe could be, game one, but Gore, PandaCat dead for 45 seconds. Left side Phoenix is down. Such long death timers, I have to imagine Scream and fineokay have enough damage.
And this is that weird balancing point. Do you have the damage, like you said, for the Titan? The tier 2 still up, probably not with a Phoenix up.
This timing's so awkward. Mike is
just
gonna
run
walk
through.
in.
I like this.
Yeah, I mean, those death timers are so long. 20 seconds feels so long here. You lose PandaCat, yes. You lose Pegon, yes. But you've got enough damage with fineokay and Scream. And you have to look at the Fire Giant steal from Pegon, although this is trickling down. NeilMah's going to be the one to respawn, and actually, all right, Mike walked away a bit. All right, the game will come to a close. It's going to be the Jade Dragons on top in game 1. With only a couple of seconds remaining on those death timers. Thin margins up until the end of this game. But the thinnest of margins in ultimately the game-changing moment, Gordon, it's Pegon stealing away that Fire Giant. That doesn't happen, you're probably looking at an Oni Warriors game 1 here, but the Jade Dragons find a way to get it done.
I mean, and it is the gameplay equivalent of breaking their ankles, right? Like a juke so hard that they just look foolish. Like you get that FG, and that's the moment where it's just the pure turn, the capabilities for the Dragons opens up wide. Most of it's even to that point. In fact, team fights, if you remember just prior to that, were going pretty overwhelmingly in favor of the Warriors. They had killed 2 going into it. And in most circumstances, I think that's a Fire Giant call. I think a lot of teams are more than willing to just say, you know what, let them have it. We'll defend. We'll see what we can do next time around or on a defense for a fight like that. I like that the Dragons play that aggressively. I like that they're kind of playing into that mentality of like, it's a best of 5. If we take this fight and we lose it, we maybe lose some towers, but we don't lose the game. Let's just go for it, and it honestly pays off in a huge way. A
great game 1 of this best of 5 to the Jade Dragons. Oni Warriors, still some life left here. Long set ahead. Oni Warriors, Jade Dragons, game 2 coming up next.
back and forth battle, game number 1, ends up going over to the Jade Dragons, but the Oni Warriors definitely did not make it easy here in our first game in set number 2 of SMITE Summer Masters semifinals. Consistently, we keep seeing these teams fight for these objectives. We saw Gold Fury pulled by the Oni Warriors, or by the Jade Dragons. They get the Fury. Then they lose 3 people in the team fight immediately after. And then Pegon makes what is probably the game-saving play for the Jade Dragons, finds the Fire Giant steal, and from that point on, Jade Dragons had the momentum to push for game 1.
Yeah, not only did that Fire Giant get stolen, then fineokay just went crazy and was able to kill a couple members as well. fineokay on this Chulainn, I think, had a great performance throughout the game. It did look very Oni Warriors-centric as the game went on, but then once that steal happened, the one you were talking about with Pegon, that's really when it switched over. That was when the Jade Dragons were in control the rest of the game. Screammmmm was able to find some good damage on the Pele, cleaning up some picks with just the movement speed built into the kit, as well as just PandaCat was doing PandaCat things late on. Like, so much damage from those auto attacks. It was absolutely chunking throughout. And it was the Phoenix Siege on the left here that looked like, they just stepped up a little bit too far, and the Jade Dragons were going to have to just run away because the Oni Warriors found a little bit of resurgence and tried to chase them down. Ended up being a really good fight. fineokay rotated back in, and, Jade Dragons still on top.
Jade Dragons find themselves a game 1 win, a couple of nice picks throughout, a big objective steal by Pegon. And the thing was, it wasn't even like he walked in and he charged up that Eset ultimate, let it build up for a little bit and just out-secured the that way. He literally just walked up, dropped it and popped it immediately along with the Spirit Ball, and then that was the steal immediately after that one. Jade Dragons find a nice turnaround in game number 1 to start their set off right. You're still laughing about that one.
Because I'm just imagining Pegon, and he walked up and he danced at the Fire Giant. You said he dropped it and popped it. You tell me he just walked up, did the Eset dance, and
they also polka dotted it too. Why not? Let's keep throwing more references.
They just gave up Fire Giant. All right, well, either way, a great play from the rookie mid laner of the Jade Dragons, and now riding that momentum. Because again, I think if the Oni Warriors made a couple different adjustments just during that FG fight and what led up to it and what happened after the fact, this could be a completely different game. So that's got to be taxing on the mentals. You got to have a short memory in a game 5 situation, though. Losing one, you got to be able to brush that off and just move forward. Think about the small tweaks you need to make to your draft and move on.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Charlie, now Jade Dragons were first pick in this game. So far, first pick has won every single game today. So we'll see if the Oni Warriors make their adjustment, take a first pick of their own, maybe try and find themselves a chance of getting. Also, being a little bit glib about it, but so far, every game that we have seen won out of our 6 now so far have been from that first pick slot. So maybe a little bit of extra weight at least thrown over on that side of the map. The Oni Warriors will have first pick in this game, so maybe a better chance, at least in that regard, to see if they can get their hopes up and maybe keep the scales tipped over to the Order side of the map. But I think you're right to say that not a whole lot needs to really change necessarily for the Oni Warriors. Play on field, I mean, it was just one objective steal that kind of swings that momentum around, gives the Jade Dragons that extra boost that they needed. Because that fight around the Gold Fury didn't go well for the Jade Dragons. They got that early Gold Fury off the back of having an Eset that early, and then they just end up losing the team fight immediately after. That's when the Oni Warriors kind of found that extra boost that they needed to kind of get themselves back in this game. We'll see if the Oni Warriors can find some success. We'll see if the Jade Dragons can keep the ball rolling. Picks Bans, game number 2, are ready to go.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, the Oni Warriors don't have to do too much play on field change-up. It's got to just be the mental game, right? Just a couple more adjustments, guys, and we won that set. Or that match, rather. That's got to be the mindset going into this game. As they are in first pick, they have the option to just not ban away any of their core picks. Make sure that, hey, the Eset could be something to take away. I don't think, I don't think the kills wide was such a big deal, the damage, but just objective confirmed. Trying to play around the Eset can be one of those things that is super difficult and just annoying to deal with, right? If you're in an opportunity where, hey, this Fire Giant should be free unless, Eset shows up, maybe that's something they want to continue to take away. But the Oni Warriors, more so focused on that Discordia, the passive in its entirety. Giving fineokay even more damage, probably not a good option, so they are going to take that one away, as well as the Cabrakan.
So Cabrakan, Discordia, Dodgy, and a Muzenkob by the Jade Dragons, at least. Oni Warriors with one final ban could take the King Arthur away, or maybe save it to be something that could be first picked for Nika, at least. You talked about the Eset maybe needing to be something that gets taken away. The Oni Warriors might want to grab it for themselves, so it's up to the Jade Dragons to see if they're willing to give the coin toss over to Dardez to pick up that god for the Oni Warriors. King Arthur does get banned Now the Jade Dragons have to answer, and they would rather fight against the Morrigan this time around than fight against Eset. And it will be a Lancelot first pick for the Oni Warriors. One more time, potentially for Nika, though still some flex over for Qvo if he wants to grab it.
Yeah, I don't know if giving the Oni Warriors the Morrigan and Lancelot is a good option, but the Jade Dragons are going to be confident just taking that Ymir again. Good matchup into Lancelot, walling off the joust. It's always going to be a good option. And hovering the Pele over for Screammmmm, a pick that he has seen a fair bit of success on. You know, he goes in consistently, can set up for the team, as well as just using that movement to traverse the map, and that will be the case. If I'm the Oni Warriors, I don't have to think about this one too hard. The Morrigan is certainly one of these two picks, as well as it looks like hovering that Heimdallr for vote, trying to get some of that safety in lane, as well as just, I think, taking it away from PandaCat more so, having that vision on the stealth target, having the vision on Dardez while stealth is something the Oni Warriors don't want to deal with.
Yeah, so Heimdallr Morrigan, the next picks up for the Oni Warriors. That takes care of the carries. Now we'll have to see if that Lancelot goes to the jungle for Qvo, or if that one's going to go over to the solo lane. Huang has not had a lot of success so far in Masters. 9 games played and only a 22% win rate, so 2 out of his 9 games as of now have been wins, but it's something that both Pegon and PandaCat have shown some prowess on for the Jade Dragons in the past. So some ambiguity in that regard. Now as we start flying through the second wave of bans already, Umoja, Nemesis, Artemis, and Chulainn banned away. So now Jade Dragons solo laner fineokay will have to find something else to play besides his King Arthur and besides his budget King Arthur.
What do you do then? I mean, King Arthur, budget King Arthur?
Would Achilles be like the budget then? Because like I've seen fineokay go to that sometimes.
Yeah, maybe that's the great value King Arthur.
Is
like
that the ultimate great value?
Yeah, we'll have to see if that is the case. I think fineokay prefers to go toward it when Khepri is in play, when Khepri is the counter matchup. So Cupid will not be overlooked in Game 2 this time around like it was last. Actually, wow, the Hoonbats would add another level of great transformations here for Dardez. And that would make the team fight even more detrimental. Will be locked in here, so Dardez has a field day. You know, you could go into the Pele for the 1v1 potential. That's a joke, right? That's got to be just a bait hover. There's no way.
So is that Hunter King Arthur then? Because King Arthur's stance switches is the war. Is that Hunter King Arthur?
No, not every character. Wait, I just imagine you on the moon. You're on the moon, and you're just saying, wait, every god's King Arthur?
Every god is King Arthur.
I'm standing on the moon, and you're behind me.
Always has
been.
Always has been.
Well, it will just be the bait turning into the Ratatoskr. I was going to say, I have never seen...
How can we make this King Arthur? How can we compare Rat to King Arthur?
That's Squirrel King Arthur.
Squirrel King Arthur.
What do you mean? I mean, that's just it writes itself at that point. If you really want me to make it, they both spin. That's all you need. That's Squirrel
They
King
do
Arthur.
both have spins. That is true. That's the mini Beyblade.
Yeah, but fineokay's been having quite the performance on the Ratatoskr when it is let through. But of course, that does also give another transformation to Dardez.
Very true.
He's got his pick of the assassins that you would like to turn into: Pele, Rat, Lancelot, or Hoonbats. I have my eyes on Dardez to make plays for this team. Of course, the first Hoonbats ult has to hit. So Qvo or Dardez, whoever goes in first with that Fear No Evil, has to grab the beads, has to set up. But then the other one comes through. You don't have that escape anymore. You don't have those relics. And so a lot of pressure on Dardez. I'm not going to say pressure because, honestly, I feel like Dardez feels no pressure. He just plays, and he plays really well. So a lot of weight on Dardez to make sure to fill his role and just hit these clutch ultimates with Qvo to set up. Their team fight looks deadly.
Yeah, and for Dardez, as you mentioned, it took me a moment to really kind of realize that there were 4 assassins in the game until you said that there. Lancelot, Hoonbats, Pele, and Ratatoskr. So many options in that regard. Go for an extra Dharmic Pillar with Ganesha if you want to. So it seems that Dardez can essentially do no wrong when it comes to his picks out there. So much team fight presence out of having the potential of a double Hoonbats. So if you're the Jade Dragons now fighting against this composition, Charlie, what are some of the things that you've got to do to maybe have a better chance of locking down Dardez and being able to fight into this Oni Warriors comp?
Well, I imagine fineokay is going to be able to do what fineokay does on the Rat, which is clear the wave and then leave. Like, you don't want to sit around in that lane too long. You don't want to fight up against the Lancelot. Use your global pressure. Go proxy a wave or two, invade some back camps, and then you can just ult the lane. You just hop across a couple trees, and then Dardez could be in some trouble. So warding, I think, pretty key here for the Oni Warriors, trying to keep their tabs on where this global presence is. But as long as the Morrigan's looking towards the sky, you can also just transform into Rat and go up in the sky as well. There's a lot of different safety options here. I just think fineokay should be on point with just clearing the wave, stealing some jungle whenever possible, and making those rotations to help out the team.
Some power over in the solo lane, maybe putting a little bit of extra weight to fineokay to try and get his team through the early game, get to the team fight stages out there. But once we kind of get to a 25, 30-minute point of the game, we are starting to get to this team fight stage. When it comes down to it, is there any maybe kind of clear favoritism for you on this one as far as that one's concerned? Because Morrigan, Huang, Batz is going to be a dangerous combination to deal with just as one. Throw two of them out there. Could be dangerous. Oni Warriors, can they find game number 2 against the Jade Dragons? Let's jump over to Dave and Gore to find out.
It is bounce back time from the Oni Warriors. You do not want to give the Jade Dragons a 2-0 lead in a best-of-5 set because the difficulty in reverse sweeping the Jade Dragons, much less finding an individual game win over this squad, I don't think can be understated here, Gore. But I think it's also important for the Oni Warriors to stick with their style, and I believe they have done that here in Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue even heavily so, right? They've leaned more into their style. I think Qvo going for the Hunbats plays more along the curve that I expect to see Qvo play. Not super aggressive early on, plays out for the farm. Level 5 you can start getting active, but really we're looking a little more towards like level 9 maybe, where you're going to get a little more interactive, maybe even further than that for him. You got double Fear No Evil, if you so please, because of Dardez on the Morrigan. You also have the capabilities of having a Rat Dunk or something like a Ymir Wall, Ymir Freeze, the Fields of Love. A lot of options for Dardez, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's either Nika, Qvo, and maybe fineokay that gets sprinkled into where those really are. But the amount of CC you can have in the middle of a team fight, especially depending on how this farm goes and early game goes, I think the Warriors here are in a good spot to continue playing, like you said, their style of Smite.
I still worry later in the game about Nika and Mike and how those two will interact. Nice little level 2 from Mike and PandaCat. If anything, it'll just tilt the lane in their favor a bit with a health advantage. As the Jade Dragons were able to lean pretty heavily on their duo lane towards the end of last game. Of course, Pegon with the Fire Giant Steel, really getting the Dragons back into it. The level 5 mark, or as you bring up, for both of these junglers, I mean, always is important. We always talk about level 5 and gank potential, things like that, but how heavily QvoFred changes Blink, Fear No Evil, that initiation. Gotta find somewhere to put it, but where do you put it? Pegon's got all of this disengage potential. fineokay does as well. PandaCat's got Sustain and Mike over in the dual lane. QvoFred was very quiet in Game 1. Potentially worried about his chances here in Game 2 to find the ganks, find the pressure early on.
Yeah, I'm really curious to watch how these go, especially like ganks specifically around like mid lane are the ones I'm going to keep my eyes on. Huang is very safe, but hasn't been winning a whole lot. Not just this tournament, but in general.
Oh!
The tick damage's not going to be there. Fineokay, all calculated, all planned. Nika actually takes a lot in response.
That one tower shot.
And so you got to be careful over here in this lane. No blink for either of these guys, so it's not like anything's going to change. But Scream and Qvo are in the jungle.
Yeah, QvoFred, remember, has blink. Scream does not. Oh, this could be a fun 2v2. If the soul laners, they're letting the junglers brawl it out. I don't want to step too far forward. We got almost the same exact amount of health both soul laners do. Similar chance to get burned down by the opposing jungler. So it is a totem of coup battle just over the junglers and the Jade Dragons and Scream able to win that. Transformation targets, that was the topic of conversation on the desk and an early conversation for us here on the cast score. Double Fear No Evil seems pretty potent to me, but the ability to answer out fineokay and some of that semi-global rotation, also a pretty good option. Really good versatility here for Dardez.
I also think really good initiation on both of them, right? Like if you switch into a Rat, you've got good initiation. If you switch into Hunbats, also really good initiation. No one to really sideswipe. You know, sometimes like in the past we've seen like, oh, if there's a Scylla or a Poseidon on the other side, maybe you'll change to the Mage for secure around objectives. Don't really get that with a Huang, so maybe something else that they're going to be looking toward. That one's going to be a mystery that can get solved. Very similar to these walls from Mike. Look, it's not giving them like a lot of pressure or anything, but it's been really solid, I think, between the two of them. Mike on this Ymir, when you've got Hunbats who technically can leap over it, Nika who can leap over it, Dardez who would have to transform to do it. NeilMah, actually, this is a fun interaction. Ganesha can run through player-made walls with his dash.
Actually, yeah.
It's something that's easily forgotten, but on his 3, you can just go through those walls if you see them. And so it's very fun, and maybe we'll get to see that, maybe we won't.
I say we'll see
one instance of it.
I'll say we'll see one.
You know, it maybe already happened.
We'll see one semi-impactful instance of it, I think. Well, the problem is depending on which side of the wall Neil is. Like, if he's trying to help his teammates escape and he's running through it from the other side, he's suddenly putting himself in danger.
Yeah.
But if him and the entire squad are trapped out and you're going the other way, then it's fine. I'll say one. I'll say we've got one good remove obstacles from NeilMah here in this game. QvoFred, level 5, won't use his Fear No Evil over in mid. NeilMah also level 5, and so is Mike, so is PandaCat. And the early ultimate's used over here in the duo lane. Remember, Vote has ult as well, and after he sends Mike, he's going to be back in tower range. Dharmic Pillar's well placed. Yes, it is by Neil, and remove obstacles on him, Mike. That's perfect. You can't write it up any better, and the Oni Warriors get first blood. Vote feeling himself in his player cams, and Oni Warriors snag the first kill.
I'm going to keep it real with you. I don't need to add anything to that. You called it perfectly. They played that the way that they played it. And I want to say maybe a little bit of luck in there, right? Because of where the Heimdallr ult places Mike. And that's the only little bit of luck in that. Otherwise, that's just clean play from the Warriors. And a really good first blood. Being able to find that much aggression, drop the Dharmic Pillars, relatively low cooldown in general, but even more so when you start factoring in maybe cooldown that could get built up by Neil in the future. So I'm expecting to see a lot of those. And you know what? While I'm talking about it, one of my favorite, as a support, like one of my favorite ults, especially in comparison to like Ymir ult, which feels just so bad in game. Like, hey, I'm going to sit here, do medium amounts of damage, admittedly in an AoE, so it feels pretty good. You get a massive slow from it, and that can be helpful. Good for like bursting things for a Ymir ult, but Dharmic Pillars slows and lets you deal more damage to somebody who walks through them. If they don't walk through it, guess what? They're caged. I mean, it really does give you like this multifaceted approach to attack. And if you hit it in the right spots, similar to what we just saw, but also on objectives, it just lets your team shred in a way that otherwise wouldn't really be available to you.
Nearly from Mike on that wall. Dardez just able to sneak by the right-hand side. Yeah, the presence of mind from Vote to turn around, send Mike back towards the tower range, and then, of course, when Mike lands right in tower range and follow it from Neil. That's all perfect. That's a great 1-2 punch from the Oni Warriors. And again, you saw some emotion from Vote there in the player cam after that first blood rolled through. Gives him a nice little head start in the lane here. A few stacks over PandaCat, probably a little extra gold, so you're starting to look maybe tier 1 ahead, something like that over PandaCat if the lane continues like this. Now, I'm interested to see Vote on this Heimdallr because, you know, we have seen Heimdallr make big plays all weekend long. Relatively safe hunter should be able to avoid some of the initiation from fineokay and Screammmmm. And you're really putting the ball in Vote's court here to scale up into the late game, be that carry for this Oni Warriors team.
Yeah, I'm just excited to watch, like you said, Vote playing it. Feels like it's one that we don't get to see as like a combo often. No. If at all, I'd have to double check if he's played the Heimdallr anytime competitive this year.
Played a lot of Poseidon.
Yeah, a lot. He's a lot of the mages over there. And like it's fun to watch again because what do you have? You have very hard hitting, admittedly maybe a little slow autos, but you mentioned the matchup versus like a Cupid. You've got some safety just in staying alive there. The Bifrost getting you out of there, using your CC immune ult to be able to dash away from Fields of Love. And admittedly, it's an effective trade, but not something you'd like to do often. But we saw the offensive pressure that it can bring as well up against supports or anybody that happens to stand in their way in terms of just taking you out of the fight for a little bit, potentially positioning you into a worse spot because of it. And so I think there's going to be a lot of fun there. There's also something to be said about the synergy with Neil's relic. And realistically, it's just that Neil has a good relic choice, and I needed a good way to swivel that over.
Yeah, for a lot of the Dragons.
It's like, yeah, okay, who's got slows? A lot of them. Who's going to be applying them? A lot of them. You know, Fields of Love, Ymir in his ult, but also his passive, and then a ton of them. And you just... Cool, I'm going to pop this relic, me and my team, zoom on out of there.
Yep, yeah, it'll be important for the Oni Warriors. Especially with fineokay sticking onto the back line, spinning around, applying the slow. I mean, so much of it from the Jade Dragons is about, yes, applying lockdown, the freezes, Fields of Love, that secondary effect. fineokay with his stun, so there is hard CC. But a lot of setup to that hard CC as well for the Jade Dragons as the game ends up progressing forward a bit. Now, in Game 1, we had 2 instances of pretty hard objective secure between Poseidon ult, and I imagine we'll see that interaction a good bit throughout the game. Maybe this interaction looks okay for the Oni Warriors. Silence through from Neil, but QvoFred has pulled the eject handle. QvoFred has gotten out, and NeilMah will as well. So tense moments over on the Oni Warriors red buff side of the jungle. Everyone remains stationary on the map and somewhat healthy. But Gore, in a game one where we had a Kraken and we had a Circle of Protection and we had all these objectives secure and steal opportunities, trying to look, I mean, guess Mike, Shards of Ice is there, Dharmic Pillars can shred down, but as far as big instant burst, it's going to be more of a coin toss this time around. Auto attacks, loose abilities, things like that make all the difference.
And I'm excited to see how that ends up changing, because like, how often, and you know, it doesn't happen too often for us where we get to see something make a big impact, like you walk up and they autoed it, and that's the thing that changes the team fight, or a fire giant or anything. But we did see it the other day, right? We saw, well, that was yesterday even. I mean, being able to walk in, steal something like a fire giant with an auto is the thing of dreams. Echrome was able to do it, and so I expect some pressure.
Oh, Fields of Love. Fear No Evil is good from QvoFred.
Fields of Evil.
Fields of Evil. That sounds like what Opwash's ult should be. Now, Empty the Crypt sounds better.
Empty the Crypt does sound better. Fields of Evil.
But if it were somebody's ult, it would probably be Opwash's, because you're just sending out a bunch of mean things. Dharmic Pillar sent out by NeilMah. Wall goes up from PolarBearMike, and a nice freeze on the QvoFred. But as you so often see, Gore, Ymir just kind of gets left alone. The rest of the Jade Dragons separating away from the Oni Warriors. Now 0-2 is Mike on this Ymir. After, you know, the Jade Dragons win game one. Wasn't a star-studded performance by Mike by any means. You know, 0-4, 0-5 towards the end of that game, despite the win. Hope not the trend that's being set here for the Jade Dragons support. This would be nice for a vote. You've already gotten one kill in this game. Can you hit your damage? Yes, you can. And over the course of the last 30 seconds, what a turn here in this game.
I mean, just clean play from the Warriors right now, right? I mean, it's exactly what we were expecting to see, and kind of what the desk said, where they didn't need to change too much on field. It was a fire giant steal gone wrong in game number one, and that's going to be harder to do here for the Dragons to maybe turn and coax things back into their favor. Nothing massive has happened on the back of the kills. I think we need to preface the conversation with that, just because it's been clean otherwise, right? The Warriors have been able to find a ton in terms of map control, and when you get these kills, it's what can you do afterwards. So far, it's been a lot of neutral farm that is giving them some gold. You know, vote 400, now 200 ahead.
Nika underneath the tier 1, but he's not alone. He's got QvoFred, and QvoFred says hello and goodbye to fineokay in one fell swoop on the right side of the map. That is all set up, though, by Nika. Yes, QvoFred gets the kill, but it's the last bit of damage. Nika has been running this lane over on right, finding the damage to set up for moments like that, and whoa, that is a lot of damage on the Scream. And so much of it, again, set up by NeilMah on those Dharmic Pillars. Gotta be a kill here onto this Pele. Nika will tank up the tower. Only a couple more shots remaining before he's gotta get out. And in a couple of seconds, Gore, last time it was 2 kills, this time it's another 2 kills. Only Warriors finding these bursty swings.
Now here's gonna be maybe the weirdest thing I think I've said. I almost prefer
in your life. I'm nervous.
No, not in my life. No, just for like analysis-wise, I might prefer Scream dying there than losing a Pyromancer. I think like losing Scream and not seeing an immediate objective pull from the Warriors otherwise keeps you within a closer gold range than if you lose the Pyromancer and Scream lives. And so it's this weird balance of like, in an ideal world, you don't lose either, but if you have to choose one or the other, I feel like Scream is maybe slightly more favorable just in that regard.
Pretty behind, though, now as he's 2 levels down from QvoFred, who, again, over the last minute of this game has kind of stumbled his way into a couple of kills. Of course, right place at the right time, not taking anything away from QvoFred. But Nika really set up that advantage over fineokay. Remember Mike a bit caught out earlier on. And then a nice kill onto Scream after the fact. Yeah, maybe it works out for the Jade Dragons as long as the Dragons can hopefully get the Pyromancer at a later point.
Yeah.
But if the Oni Warriors end up able to go back and get the Pyromancer anyway, then it's a bit of delayed damage by the Jade Dragons rather than not taking the damage at all. And you have to start looking at that because this nice gold lead, as Doug has showed us, has started to build up for the Oni Warriors. And you're at a point, Gore, where yes, Pyromancer could be on the menu. But you're starting to maybe feel good enough about a team fight, and that's generally what starts to build up at the 15 or so minute mark around the Gold Fury. QvoFred nicely underway in his itemization. Jade Dragons not out of the woods just yet with these neutral objectives looming.
No, not at all. And again, maybe he's going to be more than that. fineokay still low. Nika almost turns this around.
Wow, Nika's just doing so much, and QvoFred rotates right.
Oh
my God! What is that? What just happened? Oh no! Out of nowhere, the Bucky bounce. That is so much damage. I did not expect that at all. And that is just so nice from QvoFred.
And he's going in!
And he will go back in. QvoFred. Unreal. Couple of kills onto the Jade Dragons, and he'll keep going. Might be another. This one goes to Nika. Nika's got to get his name in the paper as well. And what a series on the right side of the map from the Oni Warriors jungler.
They're just playing better than you right now. There's no other way to describe it. Like, that is a play made by someone who has played this character for more hours than most people have in SMITE. Maybe the re-engage from the Dragons will be strong.
Yeah, QvoFred. I mean, this is as low as you're going to get QvoFred over the next few minutes, I think. But suddenly you're left alone. It's a silver linings kill onto NeilMah. QvoFred will escape, and Vote will add another here in all likelihood. A killing spree for Vote. 4-0 for QvoFred. The necessary targets of the Oni Warriors getting fed here, Gore. And this is feeling like a knockout punch from the Oni Warriors at 15 minutes. They're up 10-1. They did end up getting that Pyromancer anyway.
I can't believe this. Because, again, like you, and I think we have the replay
Show
for
it to me.
Just to watch the teleport through. So already you see fineokay's low. And in this
Right
circumstance,
here.
if those minions, if that one brute minion stays alive like too long, I mean, any of those minions, if they're alive a little bit longer, that does not happen. So really good clear for him, really good teleport from Cuvo. And look, man, that's what you get. If you've been playing since launch tournament, that's the quality of play that you are going to get. And a previous world champion, right? Like, he's got it going for him.
I mean, Cuvo
Oh my
was...
God, that was so clean.
Well,
I don't even care about this.
Yeah,
Who cares?
could be another kill here, even.
Nah, I'm
QvoFred
too
wants
focused
to
on the
teleport
other
into
play. It was so good.
Thought he might take the teleport in. Look, in QvoFred, he was like only above the supports on the damage charts in game one. You know, ended with an okay KDA. Was more there to drop his ult and set up for the rest of his team with slows and damage, things like that. Ult exchange from PandaCat and Vote. Exactly, this is like chair punch performance from QvoFred going on in game number 2 here, 4-0. And exactly, I think, what the mental of this Oni Warrior squad needed. Now, you need to close out this game. You can't afford to get an objective stolen or start to give away kills. Big opportunity for Nika here to turn around some damage. This Lancelot is strong, and Screammmmm is learning that the hard way, but only has so many buttons. And that'll be a kill to Screammmmm. But Oni Warriors get themselves a Gold Fury in the meantime.
And I think, much like you said, though, you have to be able to close this game out.
Got to.
Seeing a couple of kills go the way of the Dragons, not a big deal. One's on to Nika, one's on to Neil. It's not the end of the world for the Warriors whatsoever. But around this Fire Giant, that's where things are going to matter, like you said earlier. Not a lot secure on either side. I mean, Pegon and Dardez technically have some abilities that can hit pretty hard. Like you said, Shards of Ice if you want to commit to it, which realistically, how often are you using it in a team fight aggressively anyway? So it might work out pretty well for them there if the Dragons decide to do that. But you have such a good lead. It's just such good plays. I mean, it's been so crisp from the Warriors, seeing the way that they're engaging it, whether it's the first blood, you know, the Vote and Neil find, that play from Cuvo. A lot of their little engages have just been so well executed on. But like you said, closing it out from here is the biggest deal. It's not a team that's unfamiliar with going around.
Maybe this is what you got to do if you're the Jade Dragons, is try to gank out QvoFred, but you're just going to burn his Fear No Evil. And maybe steal away the blue buff. Nika steps forward to try to secure his own buff. Heart Bomb gets the stun. Sprint out from NeilMah as well. And so if you're a Jade Dragons fan, you're happy with still seeing this proactivity.
Yeah.
You know, despite a nice, healthy lead for the Oni Warriors, still trying to catch out QvoFred, still opening up for opportunities. Because look, now there's no Fear No Evil. QvoFred has lost his beads. Sprint used by NeilMah as well. If nothing else, it prevents them from using it against you over the course of the next few minutes. But all the while, Gore, the looming storm, the building threat of Vote over on the left side of the map. We've talked so much about everything happening on right. Vote has frolicked his way to a 3-0 start here on the game, a 2-level lead over PandaCat. just wait until this Heimdallr really joins the fight next. I mean, the Jade Dragons got to try to find those opportunities. Yes, you burn some utility. Come up empty-handed on the kills.
And for now, you mentioned Vote. He's using ult for ult with PandaCat. In the future, that is going to be allowed to be used aggressively, right? Like Fields of Love in a team fight, depending on what's around you, specifically Neil with that sprint, might just get you out of there so you don't have to lose your ult. You won't have to use your relics either. And so there's a lot that can favor you in some of those engagements, just in terms of being able to go ult for ult with PandaCat. But then setting your team up, knock up, the damage numbers that are going to be joining, has the Odysseus' bow, a lot that has been able to go their favor. And honestly, they're just going to keep looking for it.
Here comes Cubo. It's an ultimate out of PolarBearMike, but QvoFred has been frozen in place. He'll have to jump out and scream. Has found the priority target. Fear no evil. On the other side is Dardez has dropped the second of the fight. QvoFred with his death cry throws out a Fear no evil that actually might turn this fight around. And the Oni Warriors have equalized 1-for-1 in the jungle.
Only 1-for-1, but a lot of low health bars on the Dragons.
3 need vote.
It just depends on
Dardez.
whether or not your confidence levels are there to jump under and dive this tower. And with Neil as tanky as he is and Nika going around, they feel some of the pressure going their way.
Only Hunter ultimates still on the map right now. More team fight oriented from the Jade Dragons and PandaCat, but Vote, of course, can pick out one of these priority targets. Pyromancer's going to respawn. And much healthier are the Oni Warriors, and Jade Dragons will send their way towards the red buff on left. No Fury to trade out. Steal opportunity for fineokay. Of course, safe enough on the Ratatoskr that you can afford to poke your head around the corner. So it ultimately ends up being jungle for jungle gore, and shutting down QvoFred will always feel somewhat worth it, but you lose a tier 1 and a Pyromancer. In the meantime, Oni Warriors feeling just fine.
Yeah, gold-wise shifts and still skews in their favor. You had pointed it out to me when we last saw it, but net worth, I think the top 4 are all Warriors players, and the only one that's not up there is Neil because he's still down and in the support.
Far ahead of
what I think
Mike.
is funny is, yeah, he's still got almost 1,000 lead on Mike, and that's impressive for support play as far as it goes. Only 1,000 behind where fineokay is, so I think really good farming all around for the Warriors as a whole. And being able to find this amount of control, being able to keep it this consistent, finding, like you said, the tower, even if you lose Cuvo and the little bit of a bounty that's going to be on him because of the 4-0, then you are still able to pick up and kind of offset a majority of that. And by a majority, I mean all of it and then some with the Pyromancer. Unless the Dragons are able to do something insane around either a Fury over there on left that's about to respawn, or since we're hovering around the right-hand side, a Fire Giant, I don't know many opportunities. I mean, you know, what? 5 towers for one side, 4 on the other. It's not like there's a massive advantage for the Warriors anywhere other than gold, but that gold makes a difference.
That's a good silence from Neil, and a stun onto fineokay. Great peel from NeilMah. That's just kept Dardez on the map. Scream has been jumped on in the meantime. Nika continuing to buy space for the Oni Warriors. Dunked down from fineokay. Doesn't get much. Fear no evil already been used by QvoFred, and somehow everyone lives, but Vote changes that immediately. QvoFred again, a long-range teleport. Dardez through the stealth on a killing spree. PolarBearMike gunned down for a double kill for Vote. And the Oni Warriors 1 kill shy of a deicide. Get 4 of the Jade Dragons. And the Jade Dragons didn't even make a dent in the Warriors.
Yeah, Cuvo, the only one low after that fight, just backs to base and heals it up in the fountain. The rest of the team got plenty of damage. Might as well get a Fire Giant. I think you've earned that one at this point. 4 kills and clean. Teleport in from Cuvo. Good isolation and separation from the Warriors to make the Dragons not be able to peel for each other. Scream was chased off, almost first in that fight, but then the immediate rush down for the rest of them and closing that gap that otherwise would have just been a kind of neutral fight just to make it a win is huge. Now you're looking at a point where you've got Fire Giant on 5 people. This Fury is going to go down easily. You got left side tower thanks to minions, so really, really easy pickup for you in terms of, I want to say, small infusion of gold compared to what's about to happen, which is going to be the reset. When they leave base, there's a lot of buffs that are up, whether they grab them as Vote is first, or as I imagine we're about to see from Cuvo, probably grabbing them in a second when they leave the base for his speed. That's going to be your nice reset period. Then you're going to get to start running forward. Left side is always the easiest focus, just because, or not easiest focus, it's the best focus because of what it can provide for you and your team. Tier 2s with this amount of a lead, probably not something the Warriors want to defend at. The Dragons want to defend at. They could step up if they really want to. I don't think it goes their way. I don't think they like the feel of it. And I don't personally think it's going to be the call for him. Instead, I like things like this. Push up on right. If you can, and you have a little bit of time, maybe you can push down that tier 2, but you can at least get the minions in there. Go for a little bit of the jungle. I'm kind of surprised to see Screammmmm as deep as they are, taking as much as they are. But let this happen while the Warriors are getting tier 2s you weren't going to defend anyway. Yeah. Mitigate some of your losses. Regroup as 5 for the Phoenix, in which case you've got Dardez, not a standard mage. Defense-wise, not as good. I mean, it's a very narrow path here, and that's why things like the Poseidon last game, or in this case the Huang, would do really, really solid. But going in and getting aggressive for the Warriors might not work as well.
Still got to watch out for stealth, transformation, Hunbat's Fear No Evil from Dardez. Pile that on top of a Blink Fear No Evil from QvoFred.
Oh yeah, that's a big deal.
Phoenix or not, that sudden initiation from the Oni Warriors has caught the Jade Dragons off guard a couple of times. And what a difference one game makes here for QvoFred. Wasn't quite on it in game number 1. Now it's a big plays here in game 2, close to equalizing the series. In fact, it's Nika that we've got to be worried about, and it's his health bar that we're concerned about. Screammmmm gets peeled out by the Fear No Evil, and that's given 1 kill back to the Oni Warriors. fineokay reinitiates. QvoFred unable to clean up the kill. Over on left, though, the Oni Warriors have won this fight, gotten a kill onto PolarBearMike, and Vote alone under the left side. Phoenix, where is Bifrost Crystals? He's going to either have to make a play or die in base. All of this for a Phoenix. But Vote has some good damage. Vote gets a kill onto Pegon. Vote brawling it out. Uses the Aegis. One more auto. Not good enough. PandaCat's on a killing spree. But now Dardez right back in the mid lane. Oni Warriors score. They lose 3, kill 3, but get 2 Phoenixes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one. Also, Vote is potentially able to turn that into a deicide if he has either a little more health or a little more space. I mean, that is so close to being able to change things out. Cooldowns, things like that, all playing a factor in that. But you get 3 kills, right? You start that off with Screammmmm. That's a really good play from the Dragons to kill off Nika, start the fight, chase out Dardez and Cuvo, force them to use their ults, feel a little awkward, get the kill onto Cuvo, but then you've been pulled out far enough, right? And suddenly it's easier to pick up a second one. They get a kill on left, and you know what? Vote's just dealing a lot of damage. That's going to open things up. You're committed. You got to kill high-priority targets. Vote is on that list because he was, at the time, 6-0, then 7-0. You needed to isolate him and get rid of him. But I like the chase down in mid. Try to deal with Dardez, try to deal with Cuvo, and keep them under control. You lose the left side Phoenix. Then you have the recontextualized fight. Everyone's falling back because, oh no, we got to deal with Vote. He's high health. He's doing too much. We can't let him free farm. And like you said, they leave Dardez behind. And with a Fire Giant buff playing as the Morrigan and a build like this, you're going to get just enough healing from either your Chalice or the buff itself. You're going to be able to run back under and peel that Phoenix. Now you're in a spot, maybe you can go for a kill if you catch out Screammmmm there, but realistically, I wouldn't be surprised for a reset. 40 seconds left, a little bit of a push on left to make sure that these fire minions are in a good spot. Same thing for mid. Then you're going to start seeing the wards come out. A lot of sentries in the side of the Warriors. Going to be a field of vision over on the right-hand side. And once they get that set up for themselves, Fire Giant engage is really going to be where things are at.
That's his younger brother.
Either way, I mean, the Pyromancer...
No, that's
probably,
his younger brother.
That's his younger brother. And also probably the easiest thing to kill, not just on the map, but like right now, if the Warriors just wanted to, they could just do it and not really worry too much about it. And again, for the Dragons, not worth throwing your life away for. You just let this one happen, see what you can do. Blink, beads, a lot of these things are going to be available. Vote still doesn't have relics, so if I'm the Dragons, Vote's like target number 1. Vote's like the guy to get rid of, maybe alongside Dardez.
Yeah, Mike is priority number 1 for the Oni Warriors here. Screammmmm into the back line he goes, but it's the same story as before. He is killed off before Screammmmm is able to get a kill onto any of the Oni Warriors, and fineokay has just not been able to use through the Cosmos to jump in on the Oni. I mean, there's just simply too much damage. I mean, there's a full Titan's Bane for QvoFred over Screammmmm right now. The builds, the gold, all of it is just built up way too much. You're hoping for a pick there for Screammmmm. Doesn't get it, and that's Fire Giant to the Oni Warriors. And what very well could have been a 1-0 lead here in Game 2 for the Oni Warriors, but some good plays from the Jade Dragons give them Game 1. Very close to being tied up here after Game 2.
And at this rate, look, Cuvo, I don't even know if you need the help from your team, but where else are you going to put this pressure, right? There's 4 alive, going just for the Titan with the Phoenixes down is a little risque. So I like this call, right? Are you worried about this gold? No. Titan health actually is going to be helped out by killing off that tower. But it's just easier to try and put some pressure on mid with Fire Wave and on the right side Phoenix. If you burn this objective or force a fight, you're going to be able to start something big for your team. And that's really what they're looking at. You've got all 5 dragons back on the map, back on the board. Phoenixes are going to respawn. You've got to play this carefully, but you still have a very, very wide advantage if you're the Warriors.
God, there are just so many players I want to shout out on the Oni Warriors right now, because I'm thinking about how a lot of these fights have started and how I was slightly concerned about the Ymir Lancelot interaction for Lancelot, you know. Is Mike just going to be able to wall off the horse? How is Nika going to find his value? He said, yeah, I don't care. I'm just going to walk in. And so Nika has just been so strong for this team. QvoFred has filled a lot of that space. Dardez on point with the transformations. And NeilMah, 13 assists so far.
There it is!
But what has just happened? The Jade Dragons have blown up Vote. And a fantastic start to this Phoenix defense out of nowhere in a Fields of Love has kept the Jade Dragons onto the map. Gore, I said they're simply too far behind, but I was wrong. The Jade Dragons, they wiped 3 members of the Oni Warriors. PandaCat's on a rampage, and out of nowhere, this Cupid has come alive. And Gore, they can take down some of the Oni Warriors side of the map.
What a beautiful transformation from Dardez, though, right? Into the Lancelot, tries to get away, but this is where those walls come in handy. If you can keep Nika just preoccupied. You don't have to win this fight. You don't have to do anything. You just have to buy space. And Dave, with 30 seconds...
Did Scream just blow up
this
Vote?
is he and this is the duality of Scream, right? So he's 3 and 7. As a KDA, that's not beautiful. But for that kill, he gets in there just quick enough, and all of that damage onto Vote just had nothing to respond with. They can't win the game here, though. There were too many towers
Nika.
up, too many Felixes to do.
Whoa, Nika wants to fight, though, and for good reason. He's got enough damage for Scream, or does he? Or does he? Yes, he does. And Nika, with the last tick of his damage, pulls back one. PandaCat and Dardez going toe-to-toe in the mid lane, and Dardez grabs one for himself, and suddenly it's the Jade Dragons who have overextended in the mid lane. And the Oni Warriors can breathe a sigh of relief here, Gore. They have now killed off 3 members of the impending doom of the Jade Dragons and have kept most of their base alive.
They should be able to get, with this wave and maybe a little bit of pressure,
It's a long death
should
timers.
be mid Phoenix. I don't know if you're going to get a game off of this. Like you said, long death timers, 30 seconds. Everyone's in mid. They're rushing. I see a ping on the Titan. You've got plenty of time to make it work. I don't know, though, if they're going to feel as confident with it. I mean, there's not a lot of damage. Pegon's going to be up in 10. They're going to go through.
So long. Those are the longest seconds I've ever seen ticking off of death timers right now. QvoFred
5 seconds for Scream.
loses his bubble. NeilMah drops the Dharmic Pillars. Down dunks fineokay. PolarBearMike takes a trip. Transformation brings the Fear No Evil to the doorstep of the Jade Dragons, but damage has hit the Titan. Nearly not enough. Scream gets a double kill, and a momentary second of panic dissipates, and the Oni Warriors do indeed close out game number 2 and tie us up heading into game 3.
I've never been more thankful for the Titan pan because I was like, who is alive left? Who got the damage? I saw, I want to say a lightning bolt that comes by with an Odysseus' bow proc, but Dardez was standing over there. He had over half health, so like one more auto was all that was needed. He would have found it somewhere in the next 30 seconds. Still so close as far as defenses go. Almost a miracle play from the Dragons.
We got one yesterday, right? I mean,
Yeah, oh, wow. And just amazing from them there. Heart going. I'm trying to think about what just happened at the end of that game. The Warriors don't even need the end of the game. They just played that, like, a majority of that game better than the Dragons did. And then there were points when the Dragons finally start coming online. Like you said, gold deficit was a little too far down, but maybe overextending a little with your Fire Giant, and then the Dragons also overextending a little without a Fire Giant. Trying to find those balances and get the wins where you can. But there's a certain point where it's just you're gonna fall flat. And unfortunately for the Dragons, it was right there at that mid Phoenix. They get aggressive. I think if they pull back and go for some towers, they maybe equalize some gold and keep things slightly in their favor. Back off, defend base, but the Warriors were just too far ahead. That was gonna be a hard one to fight back from no matter what.
Gore, this has the makings of a very fun set here. We are going in to game number 3, tied up. Oni Warriors 1, Jade Dragons 1. Desk will break down game number 2 right after this.
Appreciate your sound. 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 Appreciate your sound, needed renovation. Appreciate your sound, needed renovation.
Welcome back to the SMITE Summer Masters. Game number 2 goes over to the Oni Warriors. And one of the things that helped out, not just the Warriors and not just the Dragons in their game, but all of our pros who currently are all playing at home, they could all thankfully be playing on the same gear that they play here in the studio, brought to us by our friends over at Alienware. So make sure you go to SMITEGame.com/Alienware. Use code AWSMITE09 to see the great gear that our players are playing on, whether they're here in studio, whether they're playing at home, whether it's our production team or us here on the desk using these laptops. It's fantastic gear. Thank you so much to Alienware. Make sure to follow them over on Alienware at Alienware on both Twitter and Instagram, and go to AlienwareArena.com. Thank you one more time for coming back in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League to our good friends over at Alienware. It's J-Mac and Trelly here to break down game number 2 of our set. And there really doesn't feel like there needs to be much broken down. QvoFred kind of just popped off the entire early game, and then luckily for Dardez, being the Morrigan, gets to ride the coattails of his jungler popping off and have some fantastic plays throughout. They're able to get some objective plays out there. That final little 2 individual 2v1s that happened at the Phoenix after a little bit of a flub at the enemy Phoenix, Oni Warriors able to pull out and tie up the set.
Yeah, I got to echo a little bit of what Dave was saying. There's not a single member of the Oni Warriors that I don't want to give some praise to after how that match went. I mean, Vote was absolutely frying in the late game. We saw a few moments where it looked like Vote should be dead, and he like grabbed 2 kills before going down. Cuvo was popping off, as you said, just consistently hitting these banger ultimates. Nika, top damage in the game, was creating so much space on the Lancelot. You were just talking about those 2 additional 2v1s. One was with Dardez, one was with Nika, both underneath the Phoenix up against 4, and they had the defense strong. The one fight the Jade Dragons won was pretty much just stopped by Dardez and Nika, respectively. And this monkey toss from Cuvo was so clutch.
Crazy.
It's just nice to let's just let the play do its work. You know, you see Screammmmm with a couple HP. Boop. That's so nice. I just shut up for a second and just
you
watch
definitely
that
have
one
to.
go.
I mean, and that's a moment. Like it was fairly quiet going into that moment there. You know, we were both sitting there in the green room, just kind of you know, occasionally glancing up and taking a look. And then we saw that happen. We both just instantly, what?
I remember going, what's good?
We're like, what's going on here? But that play right there really kind of ignited the fire under the rest of the Oni Warriors. They're able to pop off through there. Vote an 8-3 game. Quite a few big kills for himself. 5-0 for Dardez. 7-4 for QvoFred. All the carries of the team popping off as far as getting those kills. Frontliners really popping off on being able to get that extra damage out there. As you said, top damage in the lobby. Nika on this Lancelot. NeilMah bringing out the defense there on this Ganesh. And so now it comes to a question for the Jade Dragons, where if they come into the situation here, you know, they had to ban away either the Eset or the Morrigan. Which one were they more afraid of having to face off against? They themselves would be fine being able to pick up Eset, considering they're moving themselves back to first pick yet again. By the way, now 7 games all in first pick have won so far today. It seems to be the common thread at the very least. But now for the Oni Warriors, they have to start asking some questions as well. It's like, do they give the Eset over? Do they maybe let the ban the Eset and let the potential of Morrigan come back through? That way the Oni Warriors can grab it. Do the Jade Dragons take it away? All that and more can be answered as we jump into picks and bans for game number 3. A lot of decisions to be made and a lot of adaptations. And this is where the real fun of the best of 5 games start kicking off. We get 2 games deep. You're tied 1-1. You both know what works so well for your opponent in those first couple of games. Now what changes do you make as you move forward?
I mean, all I know is that I saw the cat cam from PBM, so I'm happy no matter what
That's a win.
happens. Yeah, that's a win already. It looks like the Jade Dragons will be taking away QvoFred's Daji, and then double banning out Dardez in the last 2 slots with the AMC and the Morrigan. The Warriors are not going to let that Eset through, and also double banning out Pegon with the Discordia as well. So that's going to have to be... they're not coming through. I don't think Eset's going to get through the rest of the set. And actually, the Jade Dragons will be taking Nika off the Lancelot, a pick that I think he's been having a ton of success on and been super annoying to deal with. That will give the Oni Warriors that top 2 of King Arthur and Nemesis if they want it. King Arthur's going to get locked in, and I don't think you have to think about this one too much longer. The Nemesis would also be big value here for QvoFred.
So Axe says, kind of an extra little ban there by taking Pegon away. It really did kind of force the Dragons into that position of, do you want to give Nika Lancelot again? Do you want to keep, or maybe put fineokay on that one? But then you risk giving up King Arthur on the opposite end if you do take the Lancelot. That was the trade that seems the Dragons were willing to make. With King Arthur Nemesis locked in for the Oni Warriors, option now goes back to the Jade Dragons. And it kind of makes you wonder maybe what mid-selection comes up, at least for Pegon, because we have technically 4, 5 if you want to include the Cabrakan in that count, I guess, as far as mid-lane selections have been banned away. With these 2 teams, I'm not going to necessarily consider the Cabrakan if this was like the Valks or the Levi's, maybe in that case. But with now Discordia, Eset, the Morrigan, and a Muzen Cabal taken away, all of which have been prominent picks, it made me think maybe Merlin was up there, and it seems that it's kind of at least echoing that same sentiment for the Dragons.
Yeah, that's where my mind went to as well. Pegon did have a fantastic performance on the Huang, but just not enough to carry the team to a victory. So looks like wanting some more late game damage, some good Fire Giant burn and Gold Fury burn as well. Just objective burn in just spades, right? So much of it for the Merlin. It takes a little long to get online. The early game of Merlin's not going to be the best, but if you're playing for that late game, which Artemis and Merlin are going to echo that sentiment, looks like not a bad lock here for the Jade Dragons, which means the Warriors have the option of A, grabbing a support now before bans, or B, confirming a mid laner so they don't have to get Dardez even further banned out. Looks like more specifically they're going to grab Vode's pick in the Poseidon, but it always could flex back over towards that mid lane if the Jade Dragons take away even more hunters. Chernobog was the case last time. That could certainly be taken away, as well as, the Chiron, for example. Even Uller is still prominent in that mid lane, but just going to see the Poseidon lock in for now.
So then, what bans come through? Ratatoskr banned by the Warriors, just in case that Lancelot isn't going into the solo lane, and just in case maybe Screammmmm wanted to pick that one up for the jungle. Some still flexibility with this Lancelot. It's never hard set that it's going to the solo lane. That's just where we've seen the majority of teams take it. Remember, dial back to the previous set, Captain Twig played it in the jungle as well. Ymir going to be banned away by the Jade Dragons. No support locked in for either of these teams just yet, and plenty of supports still available. Khepri up there. Definitely one of the top picks, top pans for teams. Umoja still available. Fafnir was something the Warriors went to earlier. Ganesha as well. So still the pick of the litter for the supports. It's just a matter of how many of the Jade Dragons decide to take away in that regard as the Oni Warriors go into their final ban of the phase. I wonder what they'll target. If it's focusing towards Screammmmm, could just go with the Pele and try and take him out off of something he's been comfortable with these last 2 games.
Yeah, in my head, at the moment, the Lancelot's a pivot. It could go either way, but if the Warriors locked in something like the Khepri, fineokay would say, okay, Screammmmm, take it, I want Achilles. And if not, they're just not going to go any other route. The Jade Dragons have been very lenient with letting through this Khepri on purpose because fineokay has been having such a good performance on that Achilles pick. It just seems like the Warriors they're not going to take the bait. And actually this time the Jade Dragons will just ban it away. So maybe that says fineokay is going to take that Lancelot and there's no way that Scream wanted to play it. That could have also been the option. Scream's like, just please don't give it to me. In this case, like I want the Tsukuyomi. I want something that gets active in the early, which Lancelot can do either way. For me, that's what that Khepri ban means. And now it's time for the Oni Warriors to show their hand. Will they just grab a support for Neil, or are they going to show us if that Poseidon is still going over to vote? And it probably is, of course, and it will be the Fafnir. So holding on a little bit longer for that Hunter pick at the very least. Now the Jade Dragons can show the rest of this draft. I still think the Tsukuyomi looks solid here. It's always got a decent matchup into Poseidon. If you can Aegis the Kraken after piercing Moonlight, of course, you're in for a good time. If you can't do that, you're probably going to take a lot of burst damage when you land in that Kraken.
Yeah, for sure. Jade Dragons, with their final 2 picks, they're going to look at everything except for what could just be Dardez's pick, or, again, could be votes depending on what they pivot towards. Chernobog is still available, which would be an easy pivot pick for the Oni Warriors. It gives us almost the exact same draft that we saw in game number 1 from them just earlier on. The Jade Dragons already have 2 of their carries, unless they decide to do a Chernobog solo or something like that for fineokay, bring back a double hunter style of comp.
Ooh.
But instead, it's going to be Baron and Chulainn being hovered. Baron over for PBM, something that he's found success on just recently up against, I believe it was Hex Mambo. He was able to find that matchup. And that was the game that they won in game number 3. And then Chulainn, the Budget King Arthur, back for fineokay.
Yeah, Budget King Arthur's back. PBM reprising the Baron, which had played to very great success, which does mean that Scream will be taking that Lancelot into the jungle. So now, as you said, the Chernobog is certainly available, if that is what Dardez wants to take into the mid lane. You're up against the Merlin, so not too much pressure from the Merlin in particular. Of course, Lancelot Scream could come into that mid and make a little bit of pressure, but it will be the Xbalanque. So now it's time for the Dardez Xbalanque mid, and it's going to have a little bit of pressure up against Merlin. You're going to be able to influence the rest of the map, turning off the lights. Darkest of Nights, one of the best team fight ults in the game, just to muddle up the comms and make sure that the team fight doesn't go as planned. I think it's going to be a good bet here for the Oni Warriors to round off their draft.
Yeah, it's going to give them a little bit of extra team fight, being able to turn the lights out over everything else, really kind of disrupt the comms more than anything. Now, Dardez has played the Xbalanque a few times at least. So far has had 10 picks, a 70% win rate throughout his career on this god. So no stranger to the Xbalanque for Dardez, whether that be back when his time when he was over towards duo, and also we've seen a little bit out of him, at least in the mid lane specifically. But how do you kind of feel about the Jade Dragons team fight versus the Oni Warriors? I mean, we're looking at a very similar composition to what the Oni Warriors ran in game number 1. We talked about how good their team fight was then. How do you feel about the Jade Dragons going against this comp, Charlie?
I mean, I think the Jade Dragons are going to have to sit by the wayside a little bit. The Merlin and the Artemis are going to take time to get online. If you're looking for that 2v2 in particular, I mean, Scream and fineokay have a great fight here. I mean, Lancelot, Chulainn, if you're fighting strictly off of the rage form of Chulainn, you're always going to have a good time into the Nemesis and the King Arthur. It just really depends on how you're chaining your CC, making sure the King Arthur is immobile, stuff like that. And also if Qvo goes blink or beats. That is also going to be a little bit going into the part of, like, how often can we show up on that solo lane, look for invade, stuff like that. But that seems to be the play here. The Jade Dragons want to play through solo, play through fineokay, and then everyone else farm, right? Like, I'll come rotate around, just you wait. I'm gonna focus on fineokay first. We're gonna look for blue buffs, that sort of thing. But we know when Baron Somni gets locked in, PBM's not sitting by. No. PBM is not sitting in duo lane, just, sitting with PandaCat, making sure to baby him. He is constantly setting up for the team, using those life of the parties to force out relics. I imagine probably sitting around that mid lane and constantly trying to find some sort of aggression from this Baron Somni.
No, like I mentioned earlier, we did see PBM at least take this Baron Somni up against Hex Mambo. That was in the game 3 situation they had against Hex Mambo. He went 0-0-7 that game. So while he didn't find any kills, was definitely a major setup. And that was the game that Jade Dragons just kind of steamrolled through Hex Mambo.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the game that wasn't close, that didn't come down to a quadra kill at a jungle fight or a triple base race kind of defense there. That was just the clean, clinical play that we've come to know out of the Jade Dragons. So that leads me to believe that Jade Dragons want to get things started maybe a little bit earlier from that duo lane, maybe get things rolling over in the solo lane. It's tied up 1-1. Who's going to take the lead moving into game number 3? To do that, we're going to throw it over to the casters to watch out.
That's right, game.
I knew it would break him.
What, a random sound was going to break me, Gore?
Yeah.
Is that unbelievable?
It's
Game
not a
number
random
3.
sound, it's an uh-oh.
Is that, that sounds very familiar to me. I don't know what it is, but game number 3, Gore,
me.
between Jade Dragons and the Oni Warriors. And what an important Game 3. This is our second tiebreaker Game 3 of the day. Remember, best of 5s. So the winner just gets the one game in hand. We went back and forth in our first set of the day. If we're following that trend, the Jade Dragons will win here in game number 3. And they brought out a pretty fun composition to give themselves a chance of a win.
And you know, it is really weird to think about the fact that it's always been first pick so far today as well. Like, that's 7 games in a row is actually a lot to have that happen.
Yeah.
In comparison, again, and it's not like it's following a trend from last week. It's not even really following a trend from yesterday. I have to double check just to be sure. I'm excited, though, to see what this one has to offer. Again, Qvo, I think, is good on Nemesis. Dardez, I mentioned it earlier. I'll say it again. One of the best Hunter players in the league, even though he is a mid laner. And theoretically, those two things should not go as easily hand in hand as they do specifically for Dardez. But I'm also really excited. I mean, look, there's tons of Baron's Brew. I feel like necessity is to mention PBM on this pick. Because for a longest time, he had, he had not lost on this pick at all. Yeah, and so it had worked out really well for them, like consistently in every single matchup. Now, though, again, things have kind of shifted, changed for him. It's lost, what, once, I think, maybe twice total. And so it's not the undefeated Baron Samedi support from PBM, but it is still really, really solid. I expect that's going to be a little problematic, not only because the Baron's Brews, I think, are incredibly helpful, but now you've got a mage to help balance out some of the clear. Like, Artemis has okay clear on her own. You know, Suppress the Insolent only hits 3 minions unless you can group them up really well. But Baron Samedi is going to be able to match a Whirlpool in terms of clear, and as they level up, they should be able to get some, at least a little bit of pressure there from that. Stun from the Fafnir, maybe with a Kraken later at level 5, could open the door for the Warriors to win a fight. But otherwise, I think that it should be a Dragon's Den.
Oh, hello. QvoFred has used his blink to contest Scream for these mid lane Harpies. And normally I wouldn't pay that much attention to him, but when you're blinking for him, you gotta get him. And Scream did. Or QvoFred, rather, did get those mid lane Harpies. Yeah, so there's poke damage as well as some sustain from Mightgore through this Baron. And I wondered with the mask changes how much we would see mask get picked up. You know, obviously a starter item now. And the power curve is a bit smoothed out, depending on which mask you're going. And so Mike will start off with the mask build this time around. Still can do magey things in lane, and then become more utility a bit later on in the game. So keep your eyes on that build for Mike, and what it may end up looking like a bit later on. And then also we get another look at Lancelot, but for the first time, it is not Nika out of the solo lane. Instead, it will be Scream in the jungle on this pick. And then going back to the Nemesis for QvoFred, the jungle dynamic. Super interesting here in game 3.
Yeah, I think Scream should be able to get pretty hands-on throughout this game, right? And we'll see it a lot. Qvo's going to kind of ride a curve into a late-game power spike. Around level 5, you can start getting a little more active, right, with the Nemesis, because your ult is going to be able to enable a little more damage being dealt from yourself as well as the people around you. But when I look at it, you know, Merlin can get away or at least create some space. The slow is going to be helpful there. Lancelot can get away. fineokay should be able to get away most of the time, even with your ult. And so maybe it's Mike and PandaCat that are the easiest for Qvo to put some pressure on. And early on, being able to get pressure in the duo lane, when you have a Kraken, that means that you should be able to open up pretty easy early Gold Fury pressure as well. Burn, you know, you talked about it earlier, and I think me and Myth mentioned it yesterday when we were looking at the Fafnir plus a Hunter plus the Poseidon. Like, Poseidon, you know, going into level 6-ish, plus a Coerce, plus a Xbalanque, should be able to burn the first, let's say, 75% of a Gold Fury down, then Kraken to finish it off. The Dragons don't really have anything big to contest with. And so if you can get some good pressure, maybe even a kill or 2, ideally, on the left side, the Warriors should be able to burn down a Gold Fury in no time once it spawns.
Yeah, I look at Dardez over in mid as well, and he's got some good pressure building up onto Pegon. So Xbalanque mid. I figured that was always going to be the case when Poseidon was there for vote over the laning phase. Not often we've seen Dardez being the one on this Poseidon. Kind of my final thought on the jungle. I am surprised that QvoFred didn't just try to run back the Hunbats here, because remember, it was pretty quiet game 1 on that Nemesis. Some good assist value for the Oni Warriors before that game got out of control. But was just so much more active on Hunbats and really started everything for the Oni Warriors in game 2. So I think he's got a little something extra to prove here in Game 3 to the Jade Dragons and his squad that this Nemesis is going to work here in this set. But again, you're fighting against history and first pick, and it just looked so good throughout this set. And I think it's worth talking, Gore, about not only the laning phase of this Baron Zombie, but its point later on in the game and team fighting, individual picks, things like that. You can tether, you can wrap some individual targets, but feels like the disruption of that life of the party, provided Mike is in a good enough spot to be able to use it and stay alive, could be an extra little X factor here for the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, I think that, in terms of, I think individual CC, right? Like a single target stun when you actually pull them in, that feels pretty solid. And sometimes we've seen, especially in matchups against the Baron, a tank like Neil just kind of say, cool, I'm going to like run into it to stop the pull. But a lot of the times, the Baron, it's not just the stun part of it, it's the pull. And you'll see, and maybe Mike will do this later, pulling a couple, like a group of people in, flicking to the side, pulling them in, just keeping that CC kind of persistently on them and constantly making it too awkward for them to try and escape.
Whoa, Blink on to Vote, and Immobile assist Poseidon, takes a lot of damage, and the fade away from Scream is good enough for first blood. Life of the party, on to QvoFred, and the double dash from the Nemesis secures his escape. And how about that for first blood? Jade Dragons blink in, and it's Scream who starts us off.
Now, Scream did all the things I said Qvo should try to do over here. It's like, hey, you've got some immobile people. Maybe you should take advantage of that. And Scream said, yeah, don't mind if I do. Comes over. Look, Vote's just not going to be able to escape that one. Drops the Kraken as well. I mean, it's a good blink. And considering how contested I think this first blood is going to be, that's a great way to start things off for the Dragons. You get Vote a little bit behind in terms of experience. Still hasn't been able to finish the Doom Orb. The power of this Poseidon is rotations. Versus now, PandaCat's just now backing. I have to assume he's about to get the full Transcendence online to be able to, put himself ahead in terms of itemization. That's going to get him stacking fast. It's going to get him maybe not in a position of one-on-one and 1v1 super early on, but I do like his odds in some of those circumstances. If Kraken isn't there, you can just take the fight to him. A good stun from Tusky, plus suppress the Insolent, plus just straight up your damage as an auto attacker should be able to kind of limit things down. Poseidon doesn't have like a leap away, so a trap helps favor you as well. I think that getting even a small lead over there is a nice, pretty big gap overall for PandaCat, and if Scream shows up over there again, it should be another pretty big opening.
Well, Gore, it's always fun when Doug kind of speaks to us through his hovers and things like that. I don't know if it's what he was trying to tell me, but he did bring notice to the pacing now of the builds for the Jade Dragons. Hover the Transcendence, hover the Warlock Staff, Thieves, another Transcendence for PandaCat. So despite a pretty active start for Scream, looks like everyone outside of fineokay wants to spend some time, build things up. And maybe you're assuming then that the Oni Warriors aren't going to have this big counter punch over the next few minutes, and you should have some time to stabilize. But could happen to Mike here as the Kraken drops down, but Life of the Party cancels it out, and Mike will be A-okay.
Yeah, just some CC immunity, right, for Mike to get out of there. And kind of maybe showing him the hopes of what the Dragons have for the Warriors, right? The coffin that comes out, they're trying to put him down. Either way, that one doesn't land as well as I wanted it to. It's going to be fun to watch, I think, as this game goes on, how often that Kraken is used offensively, in a team fight, when it's used for Gold Fury or a Pyromancer or more hopefully a Fire Giant over a Pyro, things like that for the Warriors. A lot of burn because of the Fafnir I mentioned earlier. Versus Merlin on the other side, right? And that is enough to offset a Fafnir plus anybody. I think that's going to be a lot of fun damage. But that also means that if Vote is present and that ult is available at any given time, objective-wise, the Dragons have to be worried about it. But if you're Scream, if you're Pegon, especially if you're PandaCat, if you get caught in a whirlpool and that Kraken's able to come out and you don't have an Aegis or anything like that, that's a lot of free damage that Vote's going to bring to a fight that theoretically isn't going to kill anybody, but it's going to set them up to just fall like dominoes afterward. And so Vote's rotations, especially now that the Doom Orb is finished, I think could become a really good linchpin for the Warriors to rely on.
Gotta use it though, because I think back to Game 1 when we saw this Doom Orb, and just the tendency of ADCs and the meta of ADCs right now. I mean, they chilled in lane Gore for another 10 minutes, and so utilizing that will be so nice, but I'm worried about whether or not we've seen that happen when this is the game where we do see it happen. Early ultimate out of PolarBearMike. Scream gallops over into the mid lane as well, but a quick stun and dismount from NeilMah slows down any further aggression. Seen some presence from this Nemesis up to this point. Little 3v3 in mid over the Harpies. Again, it's this momentum forward from the Jade Dragons that's undeniable. And QvoFred will pull the eject handle, He'll double dash on out. About half of his HP in tow. And of course, the safety of the Xbalanque will allow Dardez to stick around a bit longer. And ultimately, it's just pressure and some stolen farm from the Jade Dragons.
And honestly, I like the way that the Warriors are playing this, because like you said, it's going to be a little bit of pressure in the jungle and some stolen farm, but they're going to go for the fight even deeper. No, the Warriors want this.
Yeah, Warriors marching towards the Jade Dragons. A nice double knock-up on the backline of this fight from fineokay, but Scream left alone with a few members of the Oni Warriors. I mean, the Oni Warriors have a chance at the first kill of the fight. Instead, it goes to Pegon, and now lonely King Arthur with a few members of the Jade Dragons. What a read from Pegon to cut off Nika on his escape, and a double kill over to the Merlin. And the Jade Dragons, nice fight in the jungle with 2 more kills.
I can amend my statement now. I like what the Warriors are doing until now. I mean, that is just a moment where, yeah, I like the idea maybe behind getting aggressive there, but I don't know if that's how deep you want to dive, right? I think the minute Neil transforms, they want to fight, but if you're walking forward to leap over that wall, the minute it becomes, do you make that jump? I don't know if you go with it. You know, if you're Cuvo, you can loop around and then dash out, but if you're Neil and you leap, you're just over there now, and you're stuck in that engage. So unfortunate for them, I think that they dive that deep for them, because otherwise I was going to say it wasn't that bad of a position. They weren't giving up a lot of kills. They were kind of showing face for these fights and not letting the Dragons get very far ahead. Now, the Dragons have a little bit more free reign over a pretty hefty majority of the map. I mean, they can walk into the jungle. Mike just stood at the purple buff with no qualms about it, despite the fact that there were 2 people on the other side, because there's really not a heavy amount of control that I think the Warriors are allowed to exude for minutes now.
And Gore, that's a fantastic team fight from Pegon, who now grabs a couple of kills on this Merlin Warlock staff into the staff of Mirrodin. And I believe read this King Arthur ult near perfectly. If my eyes didn't deceive me, he gets the burn kill here. And then Nika's trying to escape and either just stands in front of the ult or flickers in front of it.
Flickers.
No, he flickers in front of it.
That's
that is
so clean.
such a nice play.
That's so good.
And keeps Nika right where he's at. And a nice double kill for Pegon. And that's so important for the Jade Dragon score. The mid laner starting to feel himself. The young gun. Think about how dynamic this squad was when Pegon first joined this team. Need some more of that here to beat the Oni Warriors in this best of 5.
That's a rookie, by the way. Making that play. I mean, that's insane to think about. To grab someone. Flicker doesn't have a long range on it. You have to be in a great spot. So I think really, really well played from them. And showcasing the strengths of the Merlin, not only in that team fight, because you got to see it against Neil at the beginning of that replay, the burn damage that this Merlin can provide, but you even get to see it there on the Pyromancer. I mean, it just shreds through objectives, shreds through tanks. And so I think that's something that they got to be worried about. Pagon's popping off on this for now. I think it has potential to continue growing there.
Yeah, look, Pyromancer, you mentioned, Gore, goes over to the Jade Dragons. Merlin is such an interesting pick where, I don't know, Pegon adjusting his camera, making sure we can all see the guy piloting now the 2-0 Merlin. Where there's a variety of different ways you can build the god and different times in the game where you really feel like you're hitting those power spikes. That is the most fire stance I've seen out of a Merlin in a little while, and it works out for Pegon. It's already at the 13-minute mark in a really good spot in the mid lane, and really just across the map now for the Jade Dragons. So the Oni Warriors got to look somewhere here, Gore, because it has been a slow, methodical burn to the Jade Dragons to the tune of 2,500 gold.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned it, because very much like what you said, when we first saw Merlin, you got Arcane Stance / Void, and you got Ice Stance, right? And the only time, and I remember hearing Aggro say this a ton when it was happening, the only time you would ever see fire was if it was at Fire, Giant, or at a Gold Fury, right? When it's like, we're going to burn something that's just going to stand there for us. Very easy to hit. I think that players have gotten a little more adept at kind of weaving those in. Again, it's very difficult. The cooldown on your stance switch isn't massive, but it is enough that, you know, for the most part in a team fight, the first volley of abilities in whatever stance you're in are going to go out. You're going to swap, you're going to get a second volley immediately. you're going to get another one in that second stance. So whatever you choose your 2 to be, have to be impactful. So if you're going to swap to fire, you better be certain that that fire is going to be able to do a lot for you, because otherwise you're now in this awkward spot where, again, low cooldown, but still just long enough that you're kind of stuck in it and you have to do another little bit of damage.
Oh, Scream. I couldn't tell if Scream was scared or excited just now. He went up down on 3 members of the Oni Warriors, lost half of his health. Vote. Can you get in range for a Kraken?
God.
No chance.
Oh
There's
my
simply
God.
too much burn from the Jade Dragons. And look, you have a Poseidon on the left side of the map. You're hoping, if you're the Warriors, that you're going to be in range to at least contest, drop a Kraken, see if you can contest the Gold Fury. Hasn't been the case. Mike with CC immunity and life of the party backs away. fineokay in for some extra peel. Gotta be the first kill of the game for the Oni Warriors, and it is. It's Mike who ends up dropping off. Nice attempt from fineokay. This time Nika's ult intentional onto Fino, but the roar keeps him out of the CC. And the Kraken won't get a kill this time, just the one for the Oni Warriors. Remember, the Dragons get Gold Fury.
I do like the pressure, though, from the Warriors. Again, just making sure not to give up anything with absolute freedom. If the Dragons get the Fury and then walk away without any scratches, that's going to be a bad look for you no matter what. 16 minutes in, you have to be able to bounce back, getting a tower as well as being able to find a kill, even though it's only on the mic, but a kill nonetheless feels like it's going to be worthwhile. Panda was slowly rotating over as well. I was wondering if the Dragons wanted that to continue going and try to bait a little longer for the Warriors to be kind of stuck in the engagement, and then boom, decide to step up, take the fight over towards the Dragons, towards the Warriors. PandaCat drops Tusky, 3-4-man stun, whatever.
Yep.
Could have been cool. They decide to call it off, right? Once Mike goes down and the tower disappears, it becomes a lot easier to just to fall back. And it does kind of set the scale and maybe the pace for the next couple of minutes, right? Pyromancer's going to be back in not too long, a little over a minute on that guy. And so you have some farm to look towards. You have a Trebuchet in mid. But if you're the Dragons right now, it's just trying to find maybe some equalization in map state, as well as trying to find that pressure in the lanes that then allows you to kind of exude that force onto the jungle.
QvoFred has done a nice job of farming up here in this game. Scream has been the one looking for scraps. Might be able to look for a kill here. Vote takes a whole mountain of damage, but a Kraken separates out the continued dive from the Dragons. No red buff to be invaded, but Oni Warriors score, not even feeling safe on their own side of the jungle. Blink in from 2 members. Dardez, no chance you see that coming. And Dardez doing his best to disengage, but fineokay has got red in his eyes. Underneath the tier 2 tower goes the Chulainn. But luckily for the Oni Warriors, Xbalanque safe enough to survive. But how about that? Look at the blink timers for fineokay and Scream in sync and on top of Dardez.
And honestly, again, I love this. If Mike gets out alive, they'll be fine, because you get a lot of pressure. You get a tier 1 in left, tier 1 in mid, and potential for a Pyromancer. I love this even more, though. Kraken not available, but I don't know that anybody's going to be able to step up in time. fineokay's here, but do you want to commit to just a Pyro?
Gotta make your small battles count if you're the Oni Warriors, and Pyromancer, given the way that this game has gone, is a relatively small battle. Keeps it right around 3,000 in both gold and experience. You mentioned scale, Gore. Let's talk about scaling. Oni Warriors, I mean, they've got Dardez in the mid lane here. Vote is always just going to get stronger. The Kraken's eventually going to hit harder. But is that just an overwhelming advantage over the Jade Dragons to the point where the Warriors can say, all right, if we can survive, tread water for 15, 20 minutes, we'll finally be stronger than the Jade Dragons. Or the Dragons got a better late game comp anyway.
I mean, you've got Chulainn as far as engage. I think Mike has to be thrown out there because he's going to get tankier as time goes on, but I'm really paying attention to this Chulainn, level 17 already. Feels really solid. I think with the Lancelot as well, you feel like you've got some really good starters for the Dragons to get fights going. And then you want to talk about late game, like you said, Pegon and Artemis, right? You've got a Merlin that's going to burn down people, has been burning down people.
Tusky hurts
and
too.
then, yeah, not only just Tusky, but like the autos that you're going to have. I mean, at this point, you've got the Executioner, you've got your chin size online, charged bow, so you're going to be hitting really fast. Won't be surprised if Silver Branch is the next item for PandaCat. And not only that, how much damage output it's going to be when you pop your own stem. All of a sudden, it becomes an attack stem as well as just attack speed. So it feels like that's going to be a really good horizon for the Dragons in the late game. And with this lead, right? It's kind of factoring that into all of this. With the gold that's in their favor, feels like it's going to be really comfortable. On the other side, you know, Mike's a couple levels down, but you still got to coerce, still got 2 relics, not what matters most.
Scream driving in towards Vote. Now we have seen this. It hasn't made Scream pay just yet, but finally the Oni Warriors able to call Scream on his over-aggression. It's the first kill of the game for Vote. Maybe another. On to PandaCat, and the dive is good, and the Oni Warriors out of nowhere show up in force, and Gore 5 seconds to the Primal Fury spawning. But a reset from the Oni Warriors. They've got a little bit of time, 30 to 45 seconds on the Jade Dragons spawn time.
I rush fire here, right? You've got a 3v5 for 30 seconds. I think that this is a good call to back, reset, go for the Fire Giant. Because you get one of 2 options. fineokay, PBM, Pegon have to fight, and you either get a kill or maybe start a Fire Giant, or they get aggressive, or they let it go. Sorry, the opposite. They don't start a fight.
What's that
and you're just
Kraken
able
timer?
to get that. Kraken should be like, what, 30, 40 seconds left before it comes back?
20 seconds. It's a potential coin flip until then, but this may be the Oni Warriors' only and best chance to get back into this game. Brilliant from fineokay, but you still don't have PandaCat in this fight. Fire Giant's been leached. Slow down.
Neil's so low.
But NeilMah's so low on the backline, and he's dead. He's dead to Pegon. And PolarBearMike is stuck around. Fire Giant does go to the Oni Warriors. Nika
Scream's here.
should fall second as well. And the other 3 members of the Oni Warriors need to get out, but Nika, he's doing better. Nika's turning around the kill. Nika spin to win. Drops Pegon, and a Kraken onto Scream. Where has this been? Suddenly the Oni Warriors back in the game. Nika's still alive! What is happening? Is he going to live? No. fineokay finally kills off the King Arthur, and the Oni Warriors drop 2 and pick up FG on 3.
I mean, look, those kills are so good for the Warriors. Plus, they get the FG on top of that. That is a hectic fight. And I think if Nika is not zoning them out, then maybe we're looking at a position where the Dragons are able to get that. That's just so clean. I mean, unfortunate for Neil to go down, but Vote gets to keep going. Dardez gets to keep going.
I'm thinking about the sudden re-entrance of the camera pans elsewhere, and suddenly Nika walks back in frame, and he's got 2 HP.
It's much health.
Like, surely this guy's dead at this point. Unbelievable. And now this game has been reset. The Oni Warriors, what a brilliant call. And then they'll go back and get the Primal Fury anyway. And where does this start, Gore? It's the over-aggression from Scream that gets called by the Oni Warriors. And then an extra kill onto PandaCat. And now the Oni Warriors a foothold and then some in game 3.
Can't count the chickens before they hatch, though. Still 5 towers left, right? I mean, you got to burn through a lot on the map to be able to find some favorable stuff. But as you mentioned, like with the gold now shimmying over into your favor as the Warriors, there's a lot on the map. I mean, those are
that's a shimmy.
All I see is dollar signs for them, man. That is exactly what I think they want to see as well. Pressure probably going to be on left and mid, right? Get aggressive, try to get that split. Tier 1 is negligible over there as of right now. It's looking at the Tier 2s. I think because of how even it is, the Dragons can, and especially with the ults they have, absolutely should mount a defense, start a defense around a Tier 2. If things aren't going your way, hightail it out of there. But I think that you are allowed and should be able to make a presence right around this line where they're standing, just to make sure that it doesn't go easily, right? They don't have a lot of minions to work with. You have to play this carefully with Pegon here. You know, you've got a lot of clear for that. It's that presence of if they had initiated, if someone on the Warriors goes too deep, that's an easy defense for you. If worst case scenario, they get super aggressive and it's not going well, you still make it back to the Phoenix. You've got a Merlin who is one of the best defensive mages that you can ask for to have on a defense. Again, wide, giant AoE abilities that are going to cover that narrow passageway into the Phoenix easily, keeping people from maybe blinking if they're QvoFred, or just from getting aggressive if it's someone like Nika or Neil.
Gore, I don't know if Oni Warriors will extend forward to the Phoenix Siege yet. I mean, still, all of that applies to this Tier 2, absolutely. Looks like a setup to the next Fire Giant for even a Phoenix Siege, and potentially just... This is what the Oni Warriors are happy with right now. Tier 1 tower should be pretty simple for this Oni Warrior squad, and PandaCat will head left, farm up, still level 19. And in games like this, you kind of have to look diagonally to compare mages to mages, ADCs to ADCs. Very similar build state for both Dardez and PandaCat. exact same build state for Vote and Pegon, which was not the case a few minutes ago. PandaCat's still over on left, so it should be a relatively easy Tier 2 tower siege for the Oni Warriors. Again, opening up those win conditions, 20 seconds remaining on your Fire Giant buff, and Gore, there's nothing to force if you're the Oni Warriors right now. And what a difference a Kraken makes. Having the one Kraken on the map probably gives the Oni Warriors a bit more confidence, going back, resetting, realizing you're not necessarily coin flipping this next Fire Giant. Not only do we have a gold lead, but we've got these secure. If it gets dropped low, we don't have to entirely leash it. We can just secure it for ourselves. Jade Dragons might have to fight before they allow the Fire Giant to get that low.
And honestly, probably should, right? I think that if you're going to fight, one of the best things that'll come out of it is if you can get on to Vote, you're going to force that Kraken. He's going to drop Whirlpool, probably going to drop Kraken. And if you're good enough at dodging it, look, Aegises are online, so for the Dragons, I give them the trust. Then you should be able to get away with diving him and not losing your life. There's definitely going to be a balancing point. If you go too deep, Scream, I have to look at him, right? Not necessarily a very clean game 2. 1 and 2 right here, so nowhere near as egregious as a slash line, but if you go too deep, you're on Vote. Yes, you might force some relics. Yes, you might force the ult. But if you die in the process and your team can't close that gap, it doesn't matter as much anymore. And maybe there's something to be said like, oh, there's 3-minute cooldown timers. You can still work your way back in there. But you really have to wonder about that opening, because if you die, Fire Giant becomes a lot easier with or without Kraken for the Warriors.
Yep.
And so I think the engage for the Dragons has to happen, but how it happens, it has to be carefully and how they choose it.
Semi-final number 2. Game 3 has suddenly gotten a lot more interesting. It looked like the Jade Dragons might just run away with things. But a lopsided fight on left turn Fire Giant has given the Oni Warriors the positional advantage. Remember, Jade Dragons have already stolen an FG earlier on in this set, but as we already talked about, Gore, had the Eset, had the Circle of Protection to counter out some of that secure. Nice stun from Nika. Kraken down from Vote as well, and there's so much CC and damage on front line of this fight. fineokay has found the Oni Warriors, and Scream gets the kill on a NeilMah. Tusky shredding the Oni Warriors, and Pegon's in there as well. Here comes Merlin right down Main Street, but Nika got it done last time. Can he get it done this time? It might have to be QvoFred, who's back into the FG pit, and the killing spree onto Mike. But it's only QvoFred, and 3 alive for the Jade Dragons.
I think fineokay, stay here. Go for the FG. You've got PandaCat and Pegon. You're going to be able to burn this if you so please. It's the question of what they want more. They want Cuvo. And they're fishing right now, Dave, that Cuvo's not biting.
Whoa. Unless flicker forward from Pegon. QvoFred makes a deicide, the quietest deicide you'll ever hear. And it's right back to the Fire Giant for the Jade Dragons. Gore, that fight was over almost as soon as it started, and it looked like fineokay was caught out. Pegon, PandaCat, Tusky, AoE damage. Big difference maker for the Jade Dragons. And now it's the Dragons back on the front foot.
Oh, I love this.
Should be able to delay Fire Giant 2 more seconds, and all 5 will get it for the Dragons.
And how they do that is maybe my favorite part of this, right? Pegon's gonna kill Fire fast. If Pegon's in that pit, he's just going to, if any ability gets thrown out, it's gonna do too much. So they send Pegon off, he pushes up right, those minions grab the tier 1, meanwhile Panda and fineokay just kind of hold on to it, like you said, to make sure everybody gets it. So I think a beautiful play from them to hold on to it as well as they did. A beautiful play for them to chase down Cuvo, who still hasn't respawned yet. I mean, that's such a good stagger to open up so much space for the Dragons on the map. Like you said, curve things right back into their favor. And now it comes back to where you can find your aggression. I like Scream just waiting to see if anybody's going to step up. Probably a Primal Fury, kick things off. Everybody's over here anyway, so might as well go for it. Minions on left are super pushed back, so grab a wave or 2 or 3 maybe on the way up. And then it's the decision of focusing left versus mid. Left is just so valuable, and you've already lost a tier 2 over there, so if you could either get the Phoenix here, would be massive, but at least the tower to help equalize a little bit of that in terms of pressure. That'll feel really solid for you. Grab one in mid, make sure that the gold lead, at least on map as far as those go, will balance out. Cuvo's going to get this tier 2 probably no matter what with 3 minions. And so it's going to be not a base race, but a nice little balancing.
Well, fineokay goes back, and now QvoFred will also be able to go back, kind of a juggling of back and forth. Because fineokay might have to, right?
Yeah.
QvoFred with a wave all on his own takes that mid lane Phoenix. fineokay's just got to be there as an insurance policy. I mean, this is crazy. And look, if you're happy and you're loving this type of Smite, here's the good news. We got at least one more after this. Remember, it's a best of 5 no matter what happens here. At least one more game. So rest assured there will be more Jade Dragons and Oni Warriors coming up next. But right now it is suddenly looking like the Jade Dragons may be the team to take us there unless you see another turnaround fight. But it's going to get more impactful as the game goes on, Gore. I mean, for now, losing a fight has meant, 1 or 2 members has meant losing a Fire Giant. As you start to crest that 30-minute mark, it's not only enhanced Fire Giant, but it's potentially game depending on how handedly you lose a fight. I don't care if the Jade Dragons are on this side of the map. If they get krakened and wiped, Oni Warriors are just running it down in the other direction.
Yeah.
No room for error here in Game 3.
I mean, the minute all towers are gone, all bets are off. It is just a team fight away. And you know, normally this is where it'd be, I'd give you the caveat of, well, normally, or like, they got a 10K gold lead, and so they're going to be able to win. I mean, 3,000 gold, it's nice. 30 minutes doesn't mean a whole ton, really. I mean,
talking
split
upgrades.
across, it's 7, I was going to say it's 600, so you know, maybe you're looking at relics choices. I think like any of the relic upgrades, some of the itemization, you know, it's going to make a small difference for the Dragons overall. Maybe you're going to be looking at, and I think right now you should be, the ward coverage that the Dragons are ready for because they've got a ton of it. But I think that you're really in a good spot if you're the Dragons here because, again, maybe it's not a massive amount of gold, but team fights have been going in your favor. It's been a very slow force for you. But now that you've been able to kind of showcase what you can do in the middle of a fight, if you just grab Neil and burn him down, I think that it's going to be awkward for the Warriors to try and step up. You've got better engage. And maybe that's going to be something they can play around with the Phoenix. They only have 30 seconds left on the power play, though. Yeah. And so it feels like this is something that you can kind of, you know, show face for, see if you can start a fight. But if things start to go wrong, won't be surprised if it's just a drop, reset, and get ready for FG.
I mean, Oni Warriors got to be pounding their fists on the table, asking for someone to bring them a Merlin, right? Because Pegon has just started to run away with this game. Top player damage, need more out of Vote, who is only above the supports. Dardez done nicely at 15,000 damage, but it's been so hard to kill off this Merlin. Pegon full build. Bancroft's upgraded at the end of his build as well. And my eyes immediately snap lock towards beads if you're looking at the Oni Warriors and needing to survive because, I mean, it's so simple for PandaCat to just drop Tusky, and if Scream or fineokay are in range, then they can burn the beads and force the stun from Tusky, or vice versa. Tusky burns the beads. I mean, there's just such a simple drop and fight for PandaCat. But, okay, no, Scream gets out. Hate it for the Jade Dragons if that's how a Fire Giant gets decided, a pick onto Scream. But a small momentary advantage for the Oni Warriors with Scream's ultimate down.
And I think that this is a moment that, like you said, not only an advantage for them, but they can at least trust that Scream, of all people, isn't going to be diving super deep. I mean, they're still Blink. And so if Scream decides to go in, it's still going to be present for them there.
I think we need to see Cuvo big in this fight. Been a quiet game on the Nem.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't even thought that much about it. I'm looking at the engage for the Dragons. I think that, you know, you look at the other side, Nika has definitely been a huge force. Neil admittedly has to avoid, I think, just getting picked off. That happened very early in the last fight. But Cuvo hadn't had the best game, hadn't really had the worst game. 1-1-5.
Whoa.
Might be able to loop around here.
Pegon is on the front line of this fight. A gets out for the Kraken, and he still lives. That's nuts. Here come the Jade Dragons, right behind fineokay. Vote kiting backwards, but fineokay's got the damage, and then some. On the right side of the fight, Dardez backpedaling away from the Dragons, and for now, it's only Vote who's gone, and should remain only Vote who's gone. A 1v1 between Nika and Scream remains interesting. fineokay makes it an unfair 2v1. Nika won't win this one. Rampage for fineokay, and down the middle lane go the Dragons.
Look, and with 2 people, you've got the push. You can get this Phoenix for sure. Cuvo's alive, Dardez is alive. There's a lot of damage for the Warriors. Not enough to save the Phoenix. But you gotta be careful if you decide to go into the Titan room. EFG is up as well. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, safe call. fall back, get the Fire Giant, grab, I guess I see a ping for an offering on the way there too. Get yourselves a Trebuchet. On the reset, you'll be able to grab the remaining buffs that are up if you really want that. There's an Oni Fury, that'll empower the Fire minions now spawning in mid. But realistically, you're looking only and eyes only at this EFG and trying to burn it down.
Fire Giant pulled by the Oni Warriors. Normally you're looking at a Kraken steal, but it is in base for the next 10 or so seconds. And that'll mean the Jade Dragons get a free and then some enhanced Fire Giant. They've gotten some interest payments. Pegon was on the front of that fight.
Yep.
Stunned.
Yep.
Used his Aegis. Got Krakened. And then lived, and then the Dragons won the fight. I see Pegon get stunned by Nika, and I'm thinking that fight's over. I'm thinking the Oni Warriors, they finally got the Merlin. My man is living free in the front line, and that has got to be so obnoxious to the Oni Warriors. And Mike, now what's it? Is that damage from Mike? Is that damage from PolarBearMike on the vault? But Boat has finally killed off Pegon. Pegon's in the back line this time. And he does end up dying. A tense moment has given the Oni Warriors an advantage. Scream immediately turns it back to the Dragons. Frenzy gets used, and the red health bars a bit lower than the blue. Dardez able to kite back. Pegon gone. Big loss for the Jade Dragons, but down goes Dardez. Scream might be burned through as well, and QvoFred has stepped up at the right time.
And look at fineokay. Look, and he's not slowing down. He's got PandaCat. He's got BBM. They're going to catch up to him. He should take this chase and try to get the damage. He might just get the kill.
QvoFred drops the slow onto fineokay, and that's a game-changing survival now from QvoFred. Fire minions on the Titan. This is almost exactly how Game 2 ended, as the Oni Warriors, still with some breath in their lungs, try to repel the Jade Dragons. NeilMah and QvoFred looking for the backline, but the backline's looking for the Titan. And the Jade Dragons grab a win in Game 3, and they'll take a 2-1 advantage in a best-of-5.
I mean, again, just impressive. And what's weird is that it's the fight finally where someone kills Pegon that the Dragons are able to win. And it's because they have to commit so much to it. I mean, Kraken getting thrown over there. Mike doing way too much damage to the Poseidon, by the way. That was absolutely, I mean, just a great play from him. And again, the aggression from that team to continue that chase, specifically fineokay kind of opening it up. There's probably a small window in a different parallel universe where Scream lives through that engagement, but I think really well done by the Dragons to continue that aggression, clear the wave, keep going, and force that pressure up, despite how the Warriors had turned it around earlier that game. I mean, it was just a seesaw. There it is.
I agree.
It goes up and down, and the Dragons come out on top.
Dragons ahead 2-1 in this best-of-5. I got to feel like between Game 1 and Game 3, Oni Warriors feel like a couple got away from them here. Fire Giant steal in Game 1. They're ahead here in Game 3. We're going back and forth. Can the Oni Warriors push us to 5? Find out prior to Game number 4. Coming up next.
Here are your free games with Prime in August 2022. Command alien troops and vie for control of the galaxy in the sci-fi strategy game StarCraft Remastered. Join Zack on a point-and-click adventure as he works to save the world from an alien stupidity machine in Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders. Become a wildlife photographer and explore the magical secrets of a mysterious land and beasts of Maravilla Island. Enter the mainframe where you'll need to fight and hack your way to victory in the digital survival game Recompile. Battle your way through unknown lands and ancient machines that guard the secrets of humanity in the roguelite adventure Scourgebringer. A woman has been killed and you've been assigned to the case. Hunt for clues, question witnesses, and solve the murder in Family Mysteries, Poisonous Promises. With Amazon Prime, you'll also get free shipping, videos, music, and more. Now members can also play these games for free, straight from the cloud, with Amazon Luna. Get all these and more at gaming.amazon.com. Go where the games take you.
Welcome back to the SMITE Summer Masters. Game number 3 goes over to the Jade Dragons this time. And off the early game, a lot of big plays, especially out of Pegon. I think back immediately to the team fight that happened around that back Harpy Camp trailer where Pegon is able to flicker in front of Nika, which remember, flicker is what, like 25 units in range, not very far. Able to stop a King Arthur, get that going. Jade Dragons find some momentum off of that play, able to get it going through. And almost similar to what we saw kind of at the end of Game 2, Charlie, whereas teams are fighting inside the Titan, no minions. Yeah. Everybody's getting low in HP. You're wondering, is somebody going to kill the Titan? It is the Jade Dragons who come out on top to take the lead in the set.
Yeah, I think fineokay has been incredibly consistent throughout the entirety of this set. Pegon does have a pop-off performance there on the Merlin as well, just doing so much damage, which, you know, we said going into this, the Jade Dragons are playing for late game. They have Merlin, they have Artemis. They want to get to that late game point where both of these characters get to just get online. This is the part here where Pegon does catch that ultimate, but they got to that point and the damage was there. Pegon did get picked. Beautiful play, by the way.
So sick.
Towards the end, but the rest of the team had the damage and was able to clean up and make sure to put themselves in this winning situation. Set point situation, by the way, for the Jade Dragons. The Oni Warriors, though, had fight throughout. This was not a one-sided match, and none of these games really have been one-sided. They have the wind in their sails, but will the Jade Dragons be able to ride that momentum and just end out 3-1?
And that's the ultimate question right now, is especially over for fineokay. You're talking about his consistency so far throughout the set, and I think you're right to bring that up. Because we've learned so far from this week of play, from week 8 of play, you can't give him King Arthur. We've also learned you can't give him Budget King Arthur. You can't give him Squirrel King Arthur. So what can you give fineokay at this point to finally be able to get some pressure on the solo laner, to finally be able to put fineokay down in one of these games and have some level of success? I mean, what can the Oni Warriors even do when fineokay is playing as consistently as he has across the last, like, 15 games of play?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question, right? Because it's not like Nika hasn't been doing things as well. Nika has also been doing his job as a solo laner. It's just fineokay has been able to get into the backline and be so disruptive on whichever character they give him. Like, consistently be getting banned out. The Rat, the King Arthur, so many different characters that fineokay would love to grab and hasn't been able to. Even 5-6 bans deep, you can find Budget King Arthur in this case and still perform. But I think if you're playing through your carries, the Oni Warriors have, I mean, QvoFred again popped off as well, had plenty of opportunities there to go in and save the day, where it was just like, oh, the game's looking grim, and then Qvo comes in and gets a couple picks, and it's like, okay, we're like, what's it called? Stabilized. We're stabilized now.
Right.
So I think still back and forth throughout this set. The Oni Warriors definitely not out of it. It's just what kind of adaptations are they going to make? The bans and the picks have been ebbing and flowing as this set continues, and we'll have to see where they go to this time.
And that's always the fun of these best-of-5 sets, is as we start getting into the depths of Game 4, Game 5 territory, we really do see those adaptations as far as the picks and bans are concerned. And as we jump into game number 4, Discordia, the first one taken off, that one has been a consistency across the board, not wanting to give that pick over towards Pegon. Oni Warriors in the first pick slot this time, which has had 100% win rate on that side of the map throughout the entirety of today at the very least. Dodgy banned by the Jade Dragons and Cabrakan by the Oni Warriors. So far, nothing changed for the Oni Warriors. They don't need to in that first pick slot. They want to get that Morrigan once again for Dardez, make sure that he has something comfortable, get something maybe even out there to grab the Lancelot, the King Arthur, something top tier that they can have for themselves in that first pick slot. That's up to the Jade Dragons to make sure they don't get some of those quintessential picks.
Well, they did ban the AMC, so that means either the Eset or the Morrigan should be getting through here for the Oni Warriors, unless, of course, they decide to ban one of those in that slot. All smiles for Alfonso here. He's like, hey, we're up 2-1. I'm living the dream. I think, given the fact that he's been playing so well, I can see why the smiles are coming through. But not for Scream. He's locked in. Scream's focused. Even though they're in a winning position, wants to make sure that they're ready. But yeah, the Oni Warriors are going to take away the Artemis from PandaCat. So the Jade Dragons are in a situation where they have to decide between Eset or the Morrigan to give over to Dardez. If by this set has been going, by the way this set's been going, Eset should definitely be the one that they take away just because they don't want to deal with it, but maybe because the Morrigan more recently went up against them, they were going to let it through, and this is the case. So the Oni Warriors do have the option to grab the Morrigan, but first, they're going to make sure to get Nika back on that Lancelot.
Grab that. And if they don't want to give the Morrigan over to Dardez, this could be a perfect opportunity for maybe the Jade Dragons to pick this up in their top 2. Nemesis and Pele still open for jungle if Scream decides he wants to go that route. King Arthur available for fineokay if he decides he wants to play that god. And then, as mentioned, the Morrigan up and available to be grabbed for the mid lane. Plenty of hunters out there for PandaCat to take. Cupid, Chernobog. So many picks out for the Jade Dragons. It's just a matter of which 2 do they want to grab now. And when you have the pick of the litter, it makes it so difficult to figure out what are the 2 most important ones to grab for your team.
I mean, I think, I don't see a reason why grabbing the King Arthur here would be that big of an issue, but it looks like the Morrigan Nemesis trying to give Pegon a good transformation as well as putting Scream on some early game aggression with the Nemesis is going to be the call. So this worked out perfectly for the Jade Dragons. They were able to make sure that Dardez does not get AMC, Eset, or the Morrigan. Of course, that does put Nika back on the Lancelot, but Nika's been popping off on pretty much every character he plays. But thwarting Dardez, I think, was the main plan here from the Jade Dragons. So far, it looks like they've done that. So what will the Oni Warriors go to? They have a couple different options here. The Morrigan is not one of them.
It is not. King Arthur, if they want to take kind of a double pickup there, maybe put Nika on something tankier, and then have that Lancelot for the jungle. That would also act as an extra ban, at least over towards fineokay in that regard. But for now, it will be Heimdallr hovered for the Oni Warriors. That gets some consistency, at least over in the duo lane for Vote. And then still one more pick available as well. Again, plenty of options out there. Plenty of the top tier supports too. It used to be coming into this weekend where supports were getting picked up in the top 2. You were grabbing your Yamojas, your Khepris, Ymirs, whatever it may have been. But it seems that with these 2 teams, they're much more concerned of getting some of these backliners in, maybe some solo lane pickups as Batz and Heimdallr the next 2, and then King Arthur hover for the Dragons. Don't imagine that gets moved to anything else.
Yeah, I think the King Arthur lock-in pretty smart here. You already have given so many good transformations over towards Pegon with the Batz, but Vote had a phenomenal performance on the Heimdallr, and now you're also giving some vision over towards that Morrigan when the stealth comes through. So that's going to be rough. Second wave of bans here, taking away the Ganesha. We are in a world where Yamoja and Khepri are just being looked over, and Ganesha is what NeilMah is not allowed to play here. It's just the matchup. This is what the set has done. The ebbs and flows, as we said. Looking at the beginning of this set, were Baron and Ganesha being targeted? No, but that's just where we have arrived. When Game 3 is on the line, the Oni Warriors have to show up, and they are going to grab that Batz. Notably, saving Dardez's pick for later on. It doesn't look like the Jade Dragons are going to take any more shots at Dardez so far, focusing out that Ganesha ban. But they do want to make sure that they get this one right, and they will take away the Khepri. So now Neil has to go a little bit deeper into that god pool. Kabrakan, Khepri, and Ganesha are not available, but all of those bans also work towards PBM and add Baron to the mix. So PBM can't play that, or Terra. So many support bans coming through. But notably, the Ymir still available. Not too many of these characters really hate Ymir. I don't think the Heimdallr, the Batz, or the Lancelot really despise that Ymir, but gonna give you some pressure in that lane. Notably, Cupid for PandaCat still made it through, and I mean, I just assumed we were going to ignore Yamoja, right? Because she has been just completely overlooked, and I guess turns out she's still pretty good and still can be picked up even after all those support bans.
I mean, there's something, a god that's got what, a slow, a stun, a heal, a shield, a movement speed buff or a knock away from your team, plus 2 giant walls that people. Yeah.
What is that like? All of the characters can do that?
No,
or-
no, that's just the one.
That's just.
the one god Umoja,
And they're banned in Terra?
and they're banning Terra.
No, I do.
And they're giving up that one.
I think the Oni Warriors were just like, hey, we don't care about the Umoja. She hasn't been picked through, and Neil will just grab the Ymir. I think that is one of the smarter things that were open. Of course, Xing Chen also was available, but Ymir's going to bring that pressure in the dual lane we were talking about. And will actually be the Merlin here for Dardez. Pegon just had a fantastic performance on it, and now Dardez is going to get to play that Merlin for themselves over on the Oni Warriors. Last pick for the Jade Dragons.
There it is.
There it is, Ho Yi. I don't know if it's going to be locked in, but probably should be. PandaCat, whenever he wants to close out a set, has been going over to this Archer boy.
Yeah, when PandaCat wants to pop off, you put him on the Ho Yi. We saw what he did against Hex Mambo in games 2 and 3. Got a quadra kill up against him in that second game to close out that one, tie up their set, and then eventually lead to victory in the very next one. Would not be surprised one bit if the Jade Dragons want to break the first pick winning streak of the day. We are going into game number 9, and 8 of 8 have all been victories from first pick slot. And this is a perfect Jade Dragons team composition to maybe try and combat that record for what the Oni Warriors have drafted. But kind of talk to me about the transitional period for the Oni Warriors throughout this game. Do they have that early game style of play? Do they have picks that can get them to the early, then kind of transition them from that early and get themselves towards the late game to be able to find their way to tie up this set?
Well, the Oni Warriors do have the Hun Batz, so early game, certainly not in their favor. You want to wait until level 5 for QvoFred to get active, but he's already had such a great performance on the Hun Batz, I imagine not going to be the biggest deal for the Warriors to sit back. Looking at the 2v2 specifically around that Totem of Ku area at level 2, Lancelot Hun Batz are definitely not wanting to fight King Arthur Nep. Stay away, give up Totem, and just say, you know what, we're going to live to farm another day. Wait until Nika gets some itemization online, then maybe put some presence over towards that duo lane, or that solo lane rather. On the flip side, though, I don't think that Scream has many great opportunities to look for a gank up until Neil, like just the Ymir. That's your option. You can go over to duo lane, because Vote's just going to Bifrost away. Like, he's not going to sit there and fight with you. If you start Blink, you're getting sent through the realms. Like, there's no way that a knock up into the ult is not coming through. So I expect to see Scream hover around fineokay for the early 12 minutes of the game, first 12 levels of the game, I should say. Just sit around that solo lane, go for blue buff invades when you can, but always be wary because QvoFred, he's lurking, and with this Hun Batz, he's been on point with this set so far.
I mean, we've seen the damage, we've seen the plays that came from game number 2 for the Oni Warriors on this pick for QvoFred. So the Oni Warriors definitely have some merit with some of the picks that they have gone through right here. But I'm looking down the way. I mean, you're going up against Umoja and King Arthur as this front line. Few gods that don't have to worry about kind of dealing with these Umoja rivers as much. Really only the Ymir and the Lancelot, if his stuff is down, maybe having to deal with a Bifrost, at least out of the Heimdallr. So do the Jade Dragons with this Umoja, is this going to be enough to maybe force out something like a Phantom Shell out of the Warriors?
I definitely think so, because if not, it seems like the composition could just turn into, okay, we're going to look for a Riptide on Neil, and then just try and poke this Ymir out, or just look for a pick onto the Ymir, and now we're fighting 5v4. Sure, we wasted the rivers in the process, but Umoja can just spam heals and be just as effective as using that River's Rebuke for some displacement, rather. So I think the Jade Dragons got exactly what they wanted here.
The Oni Warriors are going to have to fight hard if they want to take this to a game number 5. Jade Dragons are 1 away from moving to the finals. Can they close it out? We'll throw it into game number 4 with Dave and Gore.
Jade Dragons fighting against the history of the day, because first pick is just won all day long. Oni Warriors in first pick. Game 5 potentially looming unless the Jade Dragons can overcome the game 2 curse, or the pick 2 curse. Did I say first game? No, I did say first pick. I said that right. And then I said game 2. I don't know. I got it all backwards. Anyway, Jade Dragons, they're in second pick this time. Second pick hasn't been winning very much today.
My favorite segue, by the way.
What's that?
Anyway.
Yeah, that's like when you know your point has just...
You've gone on too long, and you're like, you know what?
There's no more value.
I'm going to kill it while I can.
There's no more value in what I'm saying. Anyway, we go into game number 4 here with the Oni Warriors.
There's always value in what
trying to bounce back against the Jade Dragons. And Gore, I want to start with QvoFred on the Hun Batz. I'm liking it. It's been quiet games on the Nemesis, and then the one game on Hun Batz looked really good, and then you left the Hun Batz in the back pocket in game 3. So I like the change to bring it back out here.
But would you say that you're loving it? That's the real question. Because
I'm not allowed to say that.
loved what he did earlier.
But Pegon has the Morrigan this time. So it's not double Fear No Evil anymore.
Yeah,
for the
so
Warriors.
I guess like team-wise for the Warriors, it's definitely a different horizon or a different landscape that they're approaching. Early play Cuvo pop-off potential-wise, it's still there, right? Like, I mean, you can teleport in.
Look, he's level 2.
Maybe absolutely insane farming from QvoFred. Yeah, no, I think he's in a really good spot to be able to make some highlight plays and maybe show things off. Like you said, though, it's not unique this time around for him. Pegon can become the Hunbat, so if Cuvo starts popping off, that's an easy transformation to make.
Be the Hunbats.
You can also become Yamoja. You can also, and this one's a big one, become a King Arthur or a Lancelot. Like, I think there's a lot of good options for you if you're Pegon to transform into. And like you said, it's that question of like, one, second pick has just for some reason today not been able to win. And so maybe there's a little bit there, and also in mid.
Scream wants to get it going, beads off of Dardez, and the second dash from Scream means first blood to the Jade Dragons. And that is a Scream that the Dragons haven't quite gotten yet this set. I mean, Scream has played some great games, don't get me wrong. But the level 2, level 3 immediate first blood Scream waits till game 4 to show up.
Yeah, I'm talking first blood conquer, like highest amount of first bloods in phase 2. Like, I want that Scream, and showing up, I think it's just brilliant for him. And again, it's a simple blink, dash, and a little bit of damage on top sprinkled in. Nothing too fancy about the play, but it gets you a first blood, and it gets you a first blood early. So now you're at a point where not only are you farming well, you've got a little bit of extra gold in your pocket because of the bounty, you get an extra wave in mid, so you can set yourselves up, but specifically set Pegon up to have a good lead. And like you said, Scream may be able to get a little more hands-on. Because when you look at the balance between them, we've seen Cuvo on this Nemesis a lot, and it's a pick that has treated them well in the late game, right? When Cuvo is playing a late-game Nemesis, normally we get to see things that go in their favor. Last game, maybe not so much. Scream plays this god all phases of the game. He kind of plays every god the same way, right? Where he's going to be aggressive, he's going to get in there. He might die, but he's usually getting kills in the process. It's a part of the reason, if you looked at it, he was, I believe, at the end of phase 2, highest kills in the league and highest deaths in the league. I think maybe overtaken by Inbound at the very last week. But at the same time, I think it's just one of those things. He keeps it in parity. He sets up his team. He will go in. And I expect to see a lot of that this game.
Yeah, when your deaths are that high, you got to look at what you're doing outside of that, and it's been a lot of aggressive
What
playmaking.
space are you making?
Right. For Scream, it's been a lot. And since joining this Jade Dragon squad, this team has not lost a lot. Remember, the Oni Warriors win earlier on in this set? Only the second time since adding Scream the Jade Dragons have lost a game. Nice little wall there from NeilMah. And I do think that does segue us nicely here, Gorn. A double freeze will keep us here over in the duo lane. At PandaCat on this Ho Yi, because Ho Yi has actually had a pretty good win rate here in this tournament. Not something that he's been able to boast in weeks of past, but PandaCat, a Ho Yi specialist, brings it out here for game 4, wants to end it now.
Yeah, I think this is a spot where he's going to be able to find some Fear No Evil in mid.
And it's the transformation from Pegon that drops the Fear No Evil, and Dardez at least turns around 1 kill, but it's the real Fear No Evil for QvoFred to even up the score. That is worth it for the Oni Warriors. You get Pegon and Scream in exchange for just Dardez. But Dardez has been slowed down here, Gore. You want to be able to finish off that Warlock staff as soon as possible, get the stacks going, so it's great you turn around to kill, getting an assist. But still delayed on getting those stacks.
I'm blown away at how deep they wanted to go for that kill. I mean, like, 2 people diving a tier 1 tower sub 5 minutes to get Dardez and like, almost knowingly having to trade out with Pegon, right? Like, I don't think you go into that without it being a 1-for-1. And unfortunately, that Cuvo was also right there and ready to respond. So a very interesting but also Dragons-esque play where it's just hyper-aggressive. I'm going to keep my eye on mid lane now just to see if any transformation. Like I saw, I got a little while before Pegon has that back up, so maybe no Fear No Evils anytime soon. So we can go back to what you were mentioning, the Ho Yi and the pickup specifically for PandaCat that has been kind of a pocket pick as of late, right? Ho Yi, into last year, didn't look great. Earlier this year, kind of vibing, not crazy good, not crazy bad, just kind of hangs out. When it was the Ichabal medal, it was definitely a lot easier for him to show up because it was like, oh, cool, you want to box? Let's box. and it opened up an opportunity.
NeilMah's got to use his ultimate just to survive, but it won't help him out. That's a collapse in from the Jade Dragons, and just simple mispositioning from NeilMah. I'm not sure what else you can really do there. I mean, Mike throws up the walls, and Scream walks forward, drops the ult, and at this point in the game, not nearly tanky enough to survive.
I am interested in Neil, specifically his relics. If he has the shell there, it doesn't make a difference. But it's curious to see him go for the sprint this early on, as opposed to a shell early to then upgrade quicker into something that deals with that exact scenario. How often is Mike going to be hitting walls like that? Maybe not crazy often, but at the same time, Mike's a nuts Yamoja, so it could be happening more than you would like. And so interesting to see that he's gone for the sprint early on. You know, Scream's going to be applying slows. You're going to get some as well from PandaCat specifically when it comes down to like dropping the suns and trying to get away from those. So like, it's not necessarily that this is something that is not useful, but it is surprising to me that it was the first choice and maybe not something to use later on when you're more than likely going to be dealing with those a lot more often. Now, though, you find yourself in a spot, a couple of clean kills from the Dragons, a couple of not clean kills from the Dragons as well. I expect them to continue this kind of onslaught because they've gotten themselves a good lead. They put themselves in a spot where they've kept the Warriors on the back foot. And I think this is a comp that really plays into its own aggression, right? Pegon has his ult back up. Scream's about to have his. So you're going to be able to ult somebody as Scream, fear no evil if you're Pegon. You're going to be able to, pretty soon thereafter, use the walls from Mike to isolate somebody, and you're going to have to choose your targets carefully. Neil, pretty much the only one alongside the Lancelot that you're going to guaranteed get in there. Nika can still technically escape, but might take a little longer to try and get out, so might have a little more time to kill him. Neil's just stuck, and maybe that's really what it is like knowing that it's just him in danger.
Oh, the 1v1, it's happening. PandaCat goes up and over the ultimate from Vote. I wondered if we would see some 1v1s over in what is now the solo lane, but the long lane on the map. Because PandaCat loves to play aggressive on this pick. Drops the mark, looks for a stun, hits the stun, ultimate goes down immediately. I believe Vote avoided the stun this time, but still wanted to ult in. Then PandaCat has counterplay around the ult from Heimdallr. But I will say, just a general feeling thing. When PandaCat is playing like this, you are in a bad spot in this lane. Now, Vote has damage to trade back, yes, and then an ultimate from Scream goes beneath the tier 1 tower. Did NeilMah and QvoFred have the legs? No, because look, Mike peeling out so far on the back of this fight. And I'm not sure NeilMah can go much further forward. Dardez is out of mid lane as well, but there's also Pegon here. And Pegon has a transformation.
Ooh.
Stun doesn't connect, but a fear no evil onto one. Catches out NeilMah, but NeilMah into his ultimate. Slows down what otherwise might have been his own demise. In such an awkward back and forth scrap. Ends with only the 1 kill onto Vote.
But it feels like a good kill no matter what. And maybe there's an opening. Dardez, by the way, beautiful flicker in the middle of that to make sure that he avoids Pegon. Opens up conversations for again, how good your reaction time is, things like that. If Pegon gets that stun, do they get the kill? Probably, because of the damage output, things like that. Fear no evil, maybe not as well placed as you would have wanted from Pegon, but they still open up a ton for their map. And specifically, like you said, the kill on to Vote gives PandaCat a lot of room to work with already, pretty high up, and double the stacks that Vote has on his Transcendence, but now has a tier 2 over the tier 1. Feels like it's a really good, just an open play for them. And I like that Scream's feeling proactive now, right? Wow. Even though that kill doesn't go his way, it's nice to see more choices on the map being made by the jungler.
Well, Pegon's put together a really nice game so far as well on this Morrigan. Top net worth in the game. Closing in on almost 1,000 over Dardez, 800 or 900. And really, I mean, everyone on the Jade Dragons is above their counterparts. Even PolarBearMike is worth more gold than Vote right now. Vote has not been able to farm. He is 200 gold down from Mike and about 800 gold down from PandaCat. And Vote made the big early game kills happen earlier on this Heimdallr. It has just not happened that way here in Game 4. And look, this is what Hou-Yi allows you to do. Jump forward, find a stun, find an ultimate, force an ultimate, and usher this Trebuchet into the tier 1 tower.
I love the way, again, that they're playing this nice Riptide from Mike. And that's one that's not meant to find any kills. That's just meant to make you feel awkward, right? Like, if you step forward, it's going to be in a weird spot. Vote's, like, just uncomfortable in the health range. So this Trebuchet is going to be able to get a lot of work done. Might even be able to get this tower if Mike and Panda play this as aggressively as they are.
NeilMah sends up his wall. Yeah, and look, Vote just with the mark of the Golden Crow on him has to back up. Tier 1 tower just going to go down because there's not much Vote and Neil can do, and Tier 1 tower does go down on the final rock of the trebuchet. In go PandaCat and Mike. This is a fantastic opportunity for the Oni Warriors, though, because Dardez is in, out of mid, and Tier 1 tower drops, but Vote does not. Mike turns around to kill, but it'll be a 2-for-1 plus a tower, and Mike will drop to QvoFred. What else is happening on the map, though? That's an odd-numbered fight for the Oni Warriors. Means the Jade Dragons have numbers in mid.
Yeah, they can move wherever they want. I wonder if they could have maybe committed harder, Pegon, with ult, transform, maybe just a single kill onto Dardez, but still could have been a kill onto him. It's still good presence of mind, right? Again, 2 kills for the pressure of getting the tower, for getting the trebuchet in a spot, and killing Vote again has given, specifically Panda, a hefty lead.
Nika wants this fight for good reason. He has done a lot of damage to Scream. When the team needs him, Nika tends to step up. Would love to get a kill going now for the Oni Warriors, but fineokay's got plenty of return damage, and it looks like Scream will be able to grab Totem of Ku and get out just fine. QvoFred has Fear No Evil. I'm not sure the Oni Warriors want to go that far, and blue buff just now respawning. Look at this, PandaCat lurking over on left. Vote has beads, uses the ultimate to survive, and there's a fight happening now as Pegon is transformed into the Lancelot. And my goodness, there are 1v1s everywhere, and the Jade Dragons winning them all. A 2v1 will go the way of the Dragons as well, and not the game 4 the Oni Warriors were hoping for. Nearly 5,000 gold behind at 12 minutes.
And look, this is about as classic Dragons as you get, right? It is aggressive, sometimes needlessly so, but they're still getting it done at the end of the day, right? It's sometimes trading out these kills, although not much lately, and then still being able to find a lot more gold in the value of your dive, finding something that is opening up even more conversations for you. Cuvo, I mean, I like the play, but I don't know that this is going to work out for him.
QvoFred does have the jump to get out, but PandaCat can reinitiate as well. Why not? Panda's feeling it right now. Fully stacked Transcendence to the 37 stacks that Vote's got. 2 levels ahead of the Heimdallr. 3 levels ahead in mid for Pegon. And think about the last couple of games Pegon has had. Fantastic in game 3 on that Merlin. Now goes to the Morrigan. It has just run things 3-1-1. And kills have been pretty effectively spread all over the map. 4 or 5 out of 8 is the highest kill participation we've got. And officially top net worth in the game still for Pegon Gore, and nearly 1.3 thousand gold ahead of Dardez on the flip side. So tier 2 item or so.
Yeah.
NeilMah's got to use the sprint. Scream has used his ult to slow down this Ymir, and it's just such an awkward game state to be NeilMah right now. There's nothing he can do. The Jade Dragons are simply too strong and are running away with game 4.
And you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that. This is like the worst game state when you are a support, because Neil has to be one that's setting up plays, good walls, good freezes, things like that. And there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're 3 levels down on Mike alone, so having to deal with someone who's level 14, level 13 on the other side, it's just too much to handle. I mean, that's 5 to 6 level difference. You're going to get burned by all of them in any of these circumstances. So you can't really help your own team. And you can't really stay alive, so you feel useless and you just need farm. But there's not really a good opportunity for the Warriors here. The Dragons, if they see that you're playing, maybe even more timid or behind, then they have a 5v4. Yeah. If you're playing aggressively, they can just pick you off, and then they're playing a 5v4. Like, it's one of the worst spots to be in because of how difficult it can be to come back. So you're relying pretty heavily on Cuvo, on Dardez, and really on Vote. Vote 0-3 right now. A big turnaround potential for the Heimdallr could be what this team needs to get some farm, not only for the support, but for the whole of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how the Oni Warriors find their way back in here. And it's not even so much because I don't think the Oni Warriors can do it. I think the Jade Dragons and their picks are so good at continuing to force the lead that they've already got. I mean, every time PandaCat sees Vote, it's a mark, it's a stun, it's a jump in. I mean, there's no room for Vote to sit back and farm. And if Vote is sitting back and farming, that means PandaCat is somewhere else because he's not marking, stunning, and jumping in. So Panda's just got to be somewhere else on the map. Same thing with mid, and Mike is also 3 levels ahead. And so the right side of the map is as even as it's going to get for the Oni Warriors right now. It's not going much better there. You're going to lose your tier 1 tower over on right. You're hoping for a dropped ball somewhere now if you're the Oni Warriors. And to be fair, we've had a couple of those so far here in this set. Need to be a steal, need to be a messed up team fight, a pick, an overextension, but again, the Jade Dragons great at bringing the fight to you, and it's exactly what's happening to this Tier 1 tower. Rivers Rebuke catches out NeilMah. Dardez uses beads, flickers away. PandaCat's already gotten the first onto Neil. Scream, though, jumped at by Nika. There's some legs for the Oni Warriors, but Nika's been unable to finish off the kill. A killing spree for Pegon, and the Oni Warriors come up empty-handed yet again.
I mean, just debilitating. That's the only way I can describe it. Like, Vote is proxy farming. Vote's doing his best on the map to try and get something done. They're going to lose a Phoenix 15 minutes, 16 minutes into this game, and it's not with a Fire Giant. It's not after a crazy team fight from the Warriors. It's the Dragons, as you said, bringing the fight to them. Look, I don't know if Dragons have like superior senses of smell, but they can see the finals at the minimum.
Yep.
And that's what they're looking for right now, Dave. I mean, this is the kind of play you get from a team that knows that they are on the cusp of being able to put themselves into a very comfortable position.
I'll take a 16-minute Fire Giant, please. Say the Jade Dragons, and we'll take it to go. Down to half HP. I mean, look, really, this might be the area. I mean, you got to hope Neil can make a steal happen, but he's just way too far behind to step forward. And nice CC immunity, actually. The Mad Guy's bubble bounces to PandaCat there, who doesn't end up getting frozen. And that ends up being a drop onto NeilMah as well. All 5 members of the Jade Dragons with Fire Giant at 17 minutes. One of the most brutal games we've seen today and really in the last couple of days here at SMITE Summer Masters.
Maybe the most controlling Dragons we've gotten to see in a while. Like, since Scream got picked up, it's something that's been interesting. And again, it's always fun to look at. Dragons, again, when you look at a majority of their games, if it's been sub 30 minutes since they picked up Scream, they've won it. If it's gone over 30 minutes, it's 50-50. They lost one yesterday. It was the first time that they had lost a game, and it was over 30.
Yeah, we might be sub 30 on this one.
Yeah, I think this one's falling pretty heavily. And let's look, and you know, this is where you have to look for the Warriors' perspective. Where can they get in, and where is their win conditions? And a lot of it, at this point, you're talking Phoenix defense. I'm not used to 17.5-minute Phoenix defense.
But Mike's got an Emperor's armor. Like,
oh boy, yeah, no, it's hitting hard. It really is. I think that you've got to find little plays like this, right? A little bit of gold there from Nika pushing a tower.
Yeah.
But you've got a Merlin who's good on defense, good burn. If Qvo can get a good blink ult into the Dragons, the setup potential for the Warriors around a Phoenix line could be massive. But it's such a heavy if that this has to happen and ride on. And you're still defending fire minions from mid, so it's really awkward to try and 5-on-5 defense on left.
Yep.
If you don't pay attention there, then you're going to take damage to your Titan. It's definitely one that the Warriors are not in an enviable position.
Dardez with a laugh and a head shake, I think, describes what the Oni Warriors are feeling right now. This is an absolute onslaught from the Jade Dragons. There is no footing for the Oni Warriors. We have foregone the left side Phoenix in search of a fight, and the Dragons at least will pick up Neil. And why not? Pegon transforms into Lancelot, about to de-transform, send out the ult. It's a 19-minute Titan siege for the Jade Dragons to advance their way to the finals. Remember, mid-lane Phoenix already gone. That happened a few minutes ago. But why rush it? You've got so much time with a lead here in this game. You're going to make the Oni Warriors watch their fate happen to them. 11,000 gold at 19 minutes.
Yeah, there's a point where, again, it's maybe an opening. Man, 11,000 and a half. It's a lot to deal with at this point, and it's just going to climb, right? Another 1,500 from a tier 2. This is a Dragons team that if this team shows up, no matter who they play, I don't know that you can do much against it, and you need a Hail Mary to make this go back in your favor.
Last chance for the Oni Warriors, but looks like the Jade Dragons quick enough on the draw to back up. A needed wall from NeilMah there, otherwise QvoFred maybe the last to go down in this game for the Onis.
Good
Decent freeze on to fineokay. Nika's got the initiation. This is your chance if you're the Oni Warriors. Can you even get the kill onto Nika? Yes, the Jade Dragons can. But the Oni Warriors, they are reeling now on the back of this fight. Scream has got a double kill. The Jade Dragons have ripped apart the Oni Warriors in Game 4. And it looks like they'll continue to do so. Vote is left alone now with fineokay and a few. Middle Phoenix respawns. Low health bars on the Jade Dragons. Vote picks up one. QvoFred back in, but it'll just be the one for the Oni Warriors.
Phoenix goes down. Fire minions were on the Titan for a little bit there. And it's a world where if there's a little more health on the side of the Dragons, they just walk into the Titan room and end that. Luckily, the Warriors, they now live in a world where they can at least fight back, right?
In a world
20.5 minutes.
where you can at least fight back.
In a world where you're missing 2 phoenixes and the world is against you.
And you're down
that doesn't work out. That's too many
13,000
worlds.
gold at 20 minutes.
Can the Warriors fight back?
Boom, boom. It'll take a moment from one of the greatest to ever do it. Camera pan to Dardez on the Merlin, please. It'll take a moment from one of the greatest to ever do it. The Merlin has got to step up and make the play happen. Nah, Dardez level 18, 2-3 and 3.
Actually,
0-7 on NeilMah.
to the extent, though, and actually riding on that. So here's what I'm going to say. Left side pushed up comfortably. 30 seconds till the Fire Giant comes back.
Gore,
Right
God
side,
bless you.
You're going to start pushing up. Look, you got to fight for him somewhere. And this is semifinal, man. We got to
I know, it's such a sad way to end.
After 3 competitive games, we can't let it end like this.
I know.
And so that's why I'm putting my
You're right,
hope
Gore.
in the Warriors.
You're right.
And my hope in QvoFred. That blink has 30 seconds. 15 of that's going to be burned waiting on the FG. Fear no evil up. Dardez up. Vote up. They got to kill around that right side, Phoenix. It sounds a little look. It sounds a little condescending because it's a very small feat, but it's still something that's going in their favor, and I think they can turn that into a little bit more. Fire Giant, again, wild to think about the fact that it's 22 minutes and this is the second one of the game. But I think this is a good spot for them to try and fight. You have to have someone defend.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate side.
Unlucky
and
it's
nothing to deal with.
Lucky it's the guy I highlighted, Dardez, the one back clearing minions.
In a world where Cuvo has no Merlin.
And the second Fire Giant goes down at 22 minutes to the Jade Dragons.
That hasn't happened yet.
Unless
Unless.
a miracle play happens, but your mage is out of the fight. fineokay has run down vote. Gore, the opportunity is escaping. NeilMah under threat of going 0-8 here in Game 4. Will reach that mark. A rampage for PandaCat. And Nika gallops away from his base. Mike's got a wall for him, though. And the Jade Dragons flex their muscles, Gore, in Game 4. And they've booked themselves a date with the Camelot Kings in the SMITE Summer Masters Grand Final.
After 3 really well-played games,
It's
I mean, like you
Dardez
said,
up again.
in a world where Dardez is the last hope. No, I think in
Wow.
a 4-game set, 3
That
games.
is ridiculous from the Dragons.
Games 1 and 3, where the Warriors look, I think, incredible, even though they find losses. I think that they are in a spot where they looked really good compared
Man.
to where they looked a couple of weeks ago. Should be proud.
That is
I think, of
unbelievable.
this.
We're
Dragons playing with their
farming
food
kills.
for a little bit.
Yeah, we're
so
farming kills.
I'll instead go back to the analogy I was gonna make. And a lot of that is just that this game, after those 3 that were impressive, no way did they do this. Yeah, okay. They had to get it. It took a little while, but they got
eyes were
there.
wide for a second.
This one was,
Wow.
after competitive games, this one was what would happen if you actually took a legitimate just single warrior and put it up against a literal dragon on the other side. Battle of the Mascots, that guy got torched just like they did in game.
Yeah, that's like Skyrim, the one dude at the beginning who's fighting against the dragon
Yeah.
who comes down. It's exactly what happens
Same
there.
thing.
And you know, I don't want to rewind the clock too much because the Oni Warriors should be proud of how they fought
Yes.
in games 1 through 3, really. Wonder if a couple got away from them. Think back to Game 1. It's a Fire Giant steal that ultimately tilts that game back towards the Dragons. Game 3, you're back and forth all game long. You get a Fire Giant, not able to end it. Oni Warriors, they should be proud of how they stepped up in a few of the games this set. Unfortunately,
should.
unable to close out enough of them. The Jade Dragons versus the Camelot Kings. What a finals we've got for you tomorrow. And the Jade Dragons take this semifinal in 3. We'll go back to the desk, though, to break this one down.
Thank you so much. Jade Dragons will be your second team to move into the grand finals tomorrow, as mentioned, against the Camelot Kings. For the Oni Warriors, while their run to the grand finals has ended, they'll drop down into the 3rd place match to face off against the Tartarus Titans as well tomorrow. So 2 matches ahead of you guys. But to break down that one, I mean, this is the Jade Dragons that we've come to know ever since Scream has come on this roster. The ones that from minute 1 until the very end of the game, they are just W-keying at you,
Oh, yeah.
beating you up, taking your lunch money, taking your buffs, taking everything that you own at this point. And this is the kind of playstyle that comes out in game number 4 for them to find that win, Trelly.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was expecting from the Jade Dragons in game number 1, but they finally got to that point where they felt confident enough where they could run the game like this. So many to highlight. Of course, PandaCat getting aggressive on the Hou-Yi was what I expected from the get-go. Pegon popping off on the Morrigan as you would expect. I think taking it away from Dardez definitely put a wrench in the Oni Warriors' plans, something you got to be prepared for. If you play something well, it's going to be banned away, or in this case, taken away. And Pegon, he can play the Morrigan just as well at this point. So Scream getting off to a great start on the Nemesis as well, having some early pressure in his back pocket. And I've already hyped on how good fineokay has been playing, so I'll talk about PolarBearMike the walls with the Rivers of Buke on this game. Well, I said that NeilMah probably would want to focus that shell, started sprint, and never got to the point where he could actually get a Phantom Shell online. It was just too much pressure coming from the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, unfortunately for NeilMah, with the Dragons recognizing that, hey, this is the Ymir, doesn't have an Aegis, doesn't have a Beads, doesn't have a Phantom Shell, just go ahead and pick on this Ymir the entire game through. I believe he ended the game 0-9, almost 0-10 there, so NeilMah not able to really get much going there. I mean, we're looking at 20 minutes, and Neil is barely at the level 10 mark by that point through. Well, just about everybody on the Dragons is hitting that level 15 to level 19, 20 mark at that point through. 7-3 for Scream to end the game, 6-1 for PandaCat, 5-1 for Pegon. All three of the carries popping off in the kill department for their team. Even fineokay getting a few kills of his own out there. Jade Dragons, your second team to move into the grand finals, and this time it's up against the Camelot Kings. This should be interesting because we haven't had the opportunity yet to see what the Jade Dragons can do against the Camelot Kings with their new roster. We've seen them face the Tartarus Titans. We've seen them face the Oni Warriors. We got to watch them face off against the other teams as well throughout there. So now getting to see what the new 3rd seed Jade Dragons go up against the number 1 seed Camelot Kings.
Gotcha.
This should be a very, very fun grand finals to watch tomorrow, Trelly.
Yeah, when you said 3rd seed, I thought you meant like 3rd string.
Oh, no. 3rd seed, like as in like 3rd as far as the standings were concerned in the schedule. So
that makes more sense to me, and I am extremely excited to see how they perform up against the Camelot Kings because, as you said, we haven't gotten to see how Scream performs in that environment. And also, what kind of Jade Dragons are we going to get? Are we going to get Game 4 Jade Dragons or Game 1 Jade Dragons up against the Camelot Kings?
Taking a look at the bracket and the journey these two teams have made to get to the grand finals. Started all the way back yesterday, 2-1 for Camelot Kings, 3-2 in their match against the Titans. And now they'll be facing off against the Jade Dragons, who had a 2-1 against Hex Mambo and a 3-1 against the Oni Warriors. So that will be your grand finals matchup. The final 2 teams for the Phase 2 Summer Masters event. And then the Tartarus Titans and the Oni Warriors in that 3rd place matchup. Best of 3 for 3rd place, a best of 5 for the grand finals. All of that taking place tomorrow, starting off, if I'm not mistaken, at 11 a.m. You are not going to want to miss out on this event where we will crown our true Phase 2 champion.
That is insane. I'm so excited to see that matchup because, you know, the Camelot Kings have been playing super well, but going the distance in most of their matches, right? They have been following the Jade Dragons. We're on a streak of just blanking these teams. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Hex Mambo come in, end that. And now up against the Oni Warriors. It was pretty close to being a possible 5-game set. Of course, not game number 4, but earlier on in these games, could have went either way. And I think, you know, as Dave highlighted, if Pegon doesn't make that clutch fire giant steal, maybe we're looking at a differential here. So either way, 2 teams that have shown they can carry through these games and just have no competition, and or they can also lose a couple games as well.
You never know what kind of Jade Dragons we're going to get, what kind of Camelot Kings that we're going to get. It's been 9 games of Smite through our semifinals to bring us to our final 2 teams in the grand finals. And we also get to watch the 3rd place match. It's going to be between the Oni Warriors and the Tartarus Titans. That is all going to start off at 11 a.m. with our 3rd place match between the Titans and the Oni Warriors. And then after that, our grand finals, the way to send off Phase 2 of the Smite Pro League with the Camelot Kings. The number 1 seed only dropped 2 sets through the entirety of Phase 2 up till this point against the Jade Dragons, who had a struggling Phase 2, made 1 roster change at the very end of the phase and have looked nigh unstoppable since that point. this will be a true Clash of the Titans in that grand finals.
Well, the Titans are going to be for third and
All
fourth
right, I
place.
knew you, as soon as I said it, I knew that you were going to make a call like that.
And then after that, you're telling me like Summer Masters is over?
Then Summer Masters is over.
We're not going to have the cool set anymore?
I don't think so, unfortunately. Maybe we
Are
can.
we still going to be able to dress like we're
God, I
dad's
hope-
on vacation?
I hope so.
Okay,
I mean,
well, I'm
shirt-wise, probably. I don't know if we'll get to wear the shorts anymore, but
yeah, no more flip-flops on set.
yeah, probably no more flip-flops. We'll probably, unfortunately, lose Pepper up there. You're going to have to go away. We'll have to lose Marty, who's over back there as well. So might be losing a few friends, but make sure that you are tuning in tomorrow, 11 a.m. EST, as we kick off third place and the grand finals of the SMITE Summer Masters. On behalf of myself, Charlie, Casters Production, everyone behind the scenes, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.